And we're live.
Live with PM in the PM live with Pong and Mav. Another fantastic Thursday. Gamers, listen, thank you all for joining us, whether now live or in the future. If you're listening on to one of the audio broadcasts, or hey, if you're watching this on replay on YouTube, we love you all, and we're hoping that you all are having just an amazing week so far. We have got some juicy stuff to talk about this week, Mav. Listen, juicy. I have not been paying attention as much as I normally do because of work, but what I do know is our main topic of the night. I do know that for sure, but thank you all for being here and joining us. Episode 37 already. We just got done with episode 100 of Xbox Ultimate. Here we are on 37 of PM in the PM. I can't believe we've been almost doing it for over a third of the time you've been doing Xbox Ultimate, man. That sounds crazy to me. But happy to be here. It is August the 11th, 2022. Mav, what has your week been like, brother? I have not seen you, barely seen you in the DMs. You've been a busy mofo as well. What you been doing?
Yeah.
Got any gaming in? Anything fun?
Well, I got a little bit of gaming in last night.
Did you?
Yeah, I was playing let me say this properly. The DioField Chronicle. At first I was calling it DioField Chronicles, and then I was like the DioField Chronicles, and then I was like the DioField Chronicle, then I was like, oh, it's the DioField Chronicle. Anyway, I was playing the demo for that last night. Dude, I'm in love. Yeah. Square Enix threw us a bone. Yeah. Finally on Xbox. Yeah. For Xbox users. So I would have probably got this game if it was on PlayStation only as well, of course. But it's nice to be able to play one of these Square Enix JRPG type games on a freaking Xbox, man. It's like pretty damn cool. But that's just one bone, you know. We'll see. I don't know what the hell they're doing with the rest of their themselves, but other than that,
playing with themselves over.
Yeah, they're playing with themselves. They're jacking with themselves a little bit, I think. We got lots of. I've been busy this week. It was first week of school preparations too for my daughter and stuff like that. I know you probably got some of that stuff going on over there up in Minnesota as well. And other than that, man, I've been pretty busy with work. I've had meetings and stuff like that, boring things that kind of take away from the fun things, right? But today I had a little bit of time. I was messing around some behind the scenes trying to get some interesting stuff with OBS and doing some tweaking some things to try and have some interesting content to bring you guys away coming up here maybe in the next week or so. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been a good week overall. It was a great weekend last week. Friday, Saturday, Sunday was absolutely amazing, and we didn't really play much or anything but we got to hang out. I got to see Psycho, I got to see 3-Bit. Me and Psycho went and saw a bunch of movies and stuff, and
that's awesome.
Like we smoked cigars together and just chilled, and got to play pool with 3-Bit and Psycho and stuff. And 3-Bit showed me some stuff with like some Adobe things, and him and his girlfriend Izzy were showing me some little tricks, you know.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. Just a great time, dude, last week. And I want to thank again everybody who tuned in to our 100th episode of Xbox Ultimate Podcast on Friday. That was a show that I think I'll remember forever. It was just like a fun, special time, dude, you know. And I want to thank you for being a part of that also, Pong, and for being part of everything we've been doing for so long now. Like you said, like we've been doing this for almost a third of the life of Xbox Ultimate. Xbox Ultimate's 100 now, so before you know it, we'll be hitting 50 on this, and then 100, and it's pretty damn crazy how time flies. How have you been, dude? Because like you said, you haven't seen me too much. I haven't seen you too much either. I know you've been playing a few things.
Yeah. I've been playing a few things here and there. Not as much as normal, because I've actually watched a couple things on TV.
I know, dude. My mind was blown. I was like, "What is this? The voice of Pong Soul in this DM? Did somebody hack his Twitter? Like
I know, right?
The Fun Pop DMs still exist, even though the show doesn't exist, and we still share all of our like Marvel or DC, Star Wars, and other movie talk in there, and like Pong was like chiming in with some thoughts on some movies. That's great. So
no,
let everybody know,
great,
like,
but it's fine.
What did you see? What did you see that you actually liked?
Actually, listen. I don't watch movies and TV anymore, so it's very rare. So for me, like, everything's kind of brand new. But I actually, the one that I didn't talk about was that I watched the Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt. Absolutely incredible on Amazon Prime. Really fun sci-fi movie and pretty damn well done.
I like that movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And again, I know plenty of people have already seen it, but for me, I was like, you know what? I've been looking at this one for a while. I'm just going to watch this movie. So did that with the kiddo. Again, the kiddo being here kind of influences this as well too, because he wants to watch stuff. So I'm always ready to sit down and chill with him. So, yeah, I watched Tomorrow War, but then the big one was that I actually sat down to pray. Actually, Jasper, if you're in the chat, I sat down and watched Prey, and absolutely blown away. Everybody, again, you always wonder nowadays, the hate trains are out there, but also the love trains are out there. And sometimes, just because the majority of people say something's good doesn't always necessarily mean that you're going to enjoy it nowadays. But I got to say that this is one of the best Predators that has ever been made. Still, nothing's ever going to top number one.
Yeah, same for me.
But this one is up there amongst the rest for sure. And this is absolutely fantastic addition to the franchise. As a Predator, as a big giant Predator fan, Predator #1 is probably one of my top 5 most watched movies. Me and my stepdad, rest in peace, Dad. Used to watch that on a weekly basis, sometimes 2 to 3 times per week. We literally did that for years. So I've seen Predator 1 like nonstop. Like we went through like 3 VCR tapes of Predator. So yeah, for me to sit down and enjoy this, loved the setting. Talk about, I'm sure they didn't have like a big budget movie release type.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. They did a great job.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. So, but what the director and what the producers did with their budget was nothing short of impressive. The whole setting with the Comanches and all of that was just awesome. And again, it's a Predator movie. So at first was I like, could some of the actors and actresses maybe gone with some kind of accents? Because this is a little too English for me, because I know I'm watching like legit Comanches. Like, I'm like, come on, give me a little something. But after sitting down and watching for a while, I was like, yeah, whatever. It didn't even bother me anymore. But the Predator itself, that's the best part, I think. One of the best parts of Predator and all the movies is that every Predator has been its own thing. Like, they are so unique. That's the coolest part about the Predator species, is like every single one of them has something unique, whether it's abilities, look, all of that. And this one, no different.
Yeah.
And my God, was he cool. And so, yeah, no, I absolutely love Prey. Thought it was well worth the watch, and super happy. And it sounds like this might start something new, because this is Hulu's biggest watched show of all time. I think they finally reined
it's the biggest premiere movie, TV show or anything.
Movie. Yeah. So hats off to everybody involved. All the actors were phenomenal. And like I said, the directing, the cinematography. So, I mean, again, some of the special effects, the animal special effects, look, you could tell, again, this wasn't a big time budget release. So you could tell there, but they did a good job. I mean, the bear was probably the best of the animals, and I love the bear scene. But overall, just what they did with the capturing that time and all the shots, the wide angle shots of the mountains and the rivers and all that kind of, man, I just absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, had a great time with Prey. Who
has captured Pong's body right now? It's like you're possessed. This amount of praise for a movie. I don't.
Yes.
It's amazing.
A modern day movie too.
And also like almost a reimagining or another sequel to a beloved franchise of yours, where you're usually like screw everything that's after the originals. You know what I mean? So I love it, dude.
No, because they stayed away from all the tropes, right?
Yeah,
they stayed away from a lot of the stuff that I hate in nowadays movie. Again, you know me, I don't have problem with female protagonists. I did see some people criticizing, oh, she would never have been able to do this, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't make her like Rey, where all of a sudden she was just ultra powerful being out of nowhere. Like they showed her training, and really there was nothing that she did that was like over the top. Yeah, there's a couple things here and there, but still there was nothing that really went like, oh, there's no way she could have done this. Like, no, I mean, I think it was legit through and through. They did a nice job with that. So yeah, again, man, a lot of my criticisms for nowadays movies that come out, this one just stayed away from all of it.
That's awesome, man. Just I'm glad. I'm glad you got one that you like. It's amazing.
It was.
And by the way,
with a big smile on my face, I knew you were going to say something like that too. I was like, I know when I DM him now, he's going to have something to say about it.
I was like, what? Like my eyes are. Did Pong just say that? Wait, make me a promise that you will watch Bullet Train when it comes out on TV.
Yeah. I've been reading up on that. I love Brad Pitt as an actor, so I think it'll probably be on my list. We'll see.
So good. It's on my top 10 of all time.
Oh boy, man,
dude, it's fucking great.
It's your top 10, bro. Look, again, when you talk, look, Solo. Look, that's
no, it's not in my top 10. I was all right. I wouldn't even put any one Star Wars movie on my top 10 list. Be honest with you. There
we go. Now we got a second problem. Oh my god. Okay, all right. No, but I have watched previews for Bullet Train, and it looks really good. I've watched a couple of trailers, and it does. Again, I'm a big gigantic Brad Pitt fan, so definitely probably going to be on my list to see for sure. No spoilers, Alvin, don't worry. I'm not going to go into detail because this is not Fun Pop, so don't worry about it. Even though we kind of started the show this way. Otherwise, gaming wise, haven't had a whole lot of time, but I've been rocking Borderlands 3, going through the DLC. This is some of the best. I got the Super Deluxe Edition for $10 when I picked up Borderlands 3 again, so I got all of Season 1. And the DLC in Season 1 is considered the best DLC. I'm not really unhappy that I'm missing the Season 2 DLC, but this DLC is some of the best Borderlands DLC that I've ever played. I'm having such a rip-roaring time through these different stories that they've got going on. I just got through with the Old West one that they did, and it was amazing. I had a great time through all of it. So that's what I've been doing there. And then I did sit down and play some DioField as well last night.
Did you like it?
Bro.
Yeah, it's good, right?
It's different than what I thought it was going to be with the I mean, you can stop it and you can select what your characters do, but they're just running. Like you send them into action, they're going into action.
I mean, it's all real time, so like you control them all together or individually, and like I was having a blast with like setting up the strategy with like kind of ambushing
behind them and stuff.
Exactly. You use like the knight on the horse to like plow through them and make them turn around, and then you get your assassin to do the assassin attack from behind, and it gets the dude. There was so much awesome tactics within this game, dude. Did you get to call the summon a little bit, Bahamut?
Yes, I was just gonna say, and the summons.
Yes, dude, it's so classic, right?
Classic.
Dude,
Square.
Did you notice like
summoning
the skill system and stuff though, like in the hub world is kind of like old school Final Fantasy Tactics a little bit and stuff like that as well. Oh man, there's so much to like about this game. It is a full price game. It doesn't really look like it when you glance at it, but I'm willing to pay $60 for this all day, every day, personally.
No, and the cutscenes are well done. The acting, I have not tried out the Japanese acting yet, which I'm sure is off the charts because it's Square, as always. But the English side, the English version, phenomenal, phenomenal. Like this is like, you think because this is a smaller game and a brand new IP, sometimes they don't always bring in the best talent. Sometimes you get the secondhand talent. This is top tier talent as far as acting goes. Like when they're doing the voiceovers, the emotions, the accents, the individuality of each of the actors really shines through in the cutscenes. Now it's not fully voiced through everything. When you're talking to people, they kind of just say a couple words and then you're reading the rest of the text, but in the actual cutscenes, it's fully voiced. fantastic work there as well. And yes, man, I cannot wait to see what happens as you gain power and what you're. This is just. I think my character's like level 6 or level 7 right now. Whatever they start you out as, I gained like 1 or 2 levels, I think, from the beginnings. I think they start you at 5. I can't imagine what it's going to be like, because that summon, yo.
Yeah, dude.
I was like, are you serious?
And the demo's really long too. I haven't even finished. I streamed it for a couple hours last night. I still didn't get finished with it.
Yep. And for anybody who is interested in this game, DioField Chronicle, if you download the demo and you play the demo, your progress will carry over to the full game. So that is a bonus. Not every demo does that anymore, but this is one of those that is going to do that. So anything that you do in this game, you're going to be able to carry over into the actual real full release if you wind up getting it. But yeah, this has been high on both you and my list ever since we saw it. And this is the one we were excited about. Again, it makes me so sad they're not bringing Tactics Ogre.
I don't get that shit, man. I mean, I'm gonna get it on PlayStation. I just don't.
Yes.
Like, it just
and
doesn't
you
make
have
any
to
sense.
because I'm gonna have to live vicariously through you for the time being. But again, the fact that we are getting one of these, again, we give Square all the smoke in the world. But I'm not one of those people that says, well, I'm never buying another Square Enix game again. No, that's not going to happen. DioField is on my list. Again, budget got real tight now at this point with the kiddo moving back in with us. So we're gonna have to see how things go game wise. I might be playing a whole lot of Game Pass and back catalog, but DioField Chronicle is probably gonna be one of the ones I try to squeeze in because the demo is fantastic. Highly recommend anybody going and downloading it. I don't remember how big it was. Do you, Mav? Was it like
I have no idea.
I think it was like a few gigs or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, go try it out if you're into strategy games. And again, it's not fully turn-based. You can pause the action. You can control what they're doing. You can cast specials, that kind of stuff, use their skills, and it pauses the game. But when you set them in motion, they're in motion and they're constantly attacking until you pause. So it is not a straight up old school turn by turn kind of deal anymore. So for those of you that are kind of waffling on that, hey, go check it out. Awesome game. Trying to think if I got into anything else. No, I mean, again, I was rocking Saints Row, but I kind of stopped that this week because, again, between watching Prey and doing Borderlands DLC, I really didn't get down to anything else. So I think that was it for me this week. Light week of gaming, but that's the way things are going to be for a while. So we are there, but still a great time. Having a really blast, and I hope all of you have found some games out there because there's plenty of them right now to enjoy, even though we keep getting more delays, Mav.
Yeah, delay-a-thon 2022.
Delays. Maybe we'll start there before we hop into the big topic. I know you and I are going to go for a long time on the big topic, but first of all, let me shout out everybody in the chat here. As we always do, we appreciate every single one of you joining us. If you are in here, let us know if you have not already. We got Marlesco rocking out in here. We have got Siki in here as well. Vic the Click, of course, the brother is in here. Always great to see you, Vic. General Spartan 27, brother, great to see you as well. Psychonauts, the man who, are you sure he's not living with you right now? Are you sure you guys just don't want to admit that he stayed there the entire time?
Yeah, I'm 100%. I'm 100%.
All right. Psycho back and safe in Florida. Great to have you back here, back there as well, Psycho. The fifth Horseman, D, always dropping in here to say hi. Talos Ray, of course. Honored to have you here as always. We got Def Leopard in the house as well. Shane, what's going on? And then we've got your beautiful wife, Kaitlin, who's throwing up the grandpa emojis for me as always. Yes, I am old. Yes, yep, that is true. General Spartan 27, I already got you, brother, but I'll get you again because you're worth it. Let's see here. Who else we got? Dark CMF member for 8 months. He drops in. I'm sold on both movies. Hit that like, chat. That's right. If you have not hit like button, help us. And thank you, Dark CMF, for everything you do in this community. Huge, giant supporter of so many different shows, man. Appreciate you. Drunken Donut, one of my favorite names. Man, always great to see you. Oni, awesome to have you in here as well. I wonder if that's after the old video game by good old Rockstar and Bungie. Oh, nobody remembers that at all, but Oni was awesome back in the day. Alvin, good to see you. Depka, always great to have you in our chat. Tony Grasso, brother, you are here. Good to see you. Masshole 1977. Yo, yo, yo. Back to you. Yo, yo, yo. Who else we got in here? Let's see if I'm missing anybody. Oh, Shizno Elite. Back to his normal name again. Love to see you, my friend. Thank you for dropping in here with the hands waving. Appreciate you. We got King Reaper 74G. What's going on? What's good, my G's? What's good with you, man? Great to have you in here. Thanks for joining us tonight. Black Card Day, always dropping in. Brother, awesome to see you, along with the other brother, Andrew Cullinane. Awesome to see both of you in here. We got Tarquin Byrne in the house. How you doing? What else? Who else? Mitchie Dies a Lot shows up in here as always, right at the top of the list, along with David Cohen. Yo, party. Yo, what's going on, David? Great to see you. I hope you're all just, again, have an amazing week. Go Poe. I see you dropping in here as well. As always, great to have you joining myself and Mav tonight, because we're going to have a great show. Got a lot to talk about. Again, I have not been active as I normally have been. I did send a lot of stuff through the DMs, but I have not done the normal reading that I do outside of a little bit here and there. But we still have some things to talk about this week, Mav, because some things are going down. And of course, there's a big one, but we're not going to quite get into that yet, as Mav and I just talked about. Mav, delays. You gotta love them. Oh my God. I finally posted a tweet the other day and said, look, I don't care who's telling me about a release date. I'm not listening to you anymore. Come talk to me when we're 2 weeks
away.
Launch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything's getting delayed. There's not going to be anything come out in 2022. Sorry, guys.
Don't say that. Holy shit. Now
everything's going to get pushed to 2024.
People just spit out all their traits at one
2022.
time.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get Saints Row at some point. We're going to get Call of Duty. We're going to get Madden. We're going to get NBA. Everything else is getting delayed.
That's your lineup for 2023.
That's the lineup. Didn't
Grub put out a post today too? Hey, you guys remember Harry
Hogwarts?
Potter?
Yeah,
Hogwarts Legacy.
I said on Twitter that I think Twitter or somebody's chat is like Hogwarts is getting delayed. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if God of War even got delayed at this point. You know what I mean? Everything is getting delayed, dude. It's like every time a Monday rolls around, you see that stupid company letterhead like that they only use to announce delays. I don't even look at the tweet. I just like, oh, that's a delay. Yep. You know, it's like if you see an image with a letterhead, dear blah 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 fans, you know, it's a delay. And we got two of them this week, two pretty prominent games.
Yep. Midnight Suns.
That's the second delay for that. Also.
Yep. Second delay for that.
Arc Raiders, which I assume this, right?
Yeah.
But
Arc Raiders wasn't a shock because we hadn't seen it since the first announcement.
Yeah.
So yeah.
High on Life's getting delayed, everybody probably as well. I mean,
they got Idle Sloth doesn't hang out in our chats like he hangs out on the Xbox too. Man. We'd be Sloth.
No,
all the
I
time,
don't
bro.
freaking know anything. I'm just saying, like at this point, would it surprise you? I mean, Scorn's adamant that they're on track. It's getting delayed.
Scorn's really adamant.
Yeah, it's getting delayed. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? It's like everything's getting delayed. I don't trust any release dates anymore whatsoever. You know, DioField Chronicles probably getting delayed. We just played the demo for it.
What do you
2023.
think? Realistically, though, Mav, what has happened here? Because I've seen some other analysts out there, some of the video game guys on Twitter, who do this for a living, and do watch it, and they've all kind of had the same sentiment that this really is bad. Like we saw the numbers come out, and everybody's kind of dipped back to normal again, of course, after the pandy and all that kind of stuff, and people getting outside in the summertime and spending money elsewhere. And now we got recession across the entire globe that's hitting people's pockets. And so obviously we all, any of us that talk about this stuff on a regular basis kind of figured this was going to happen, like, and including the analysts themselves. But I did see some of them really throw up some alarm bells talking about how all of these delays and that Christmas time this year, holiday, which is usually a big time of the year for video games outside of Sony. And funny enough, they might have one of the biggest games in the holidays come out this year.
If it's not delayed.
Yeah, if it's not delayed. But everybody, it seems like this is like really bad, and it's kind of like the excitement that we had for nearly 2 years straight in this industry of just nonstop news, games coming out, kind of really has dropped off a cliff all of a sudden, coming towards the second half of this year. What do you think it is, Mav? Do you think it's anything to be alarmed about? Or you think this is just part of still the pandy coming back around and slapping devs around? Do you think people are moving on purpose, due to the situations across the globe? What do you think's really going on?
I saw somebody say that, people are moving out of the way of God of War. I thought that's utterly ridiculous. Not every game under the sun is going to move out of the way of a first party exclusive game, right? That's just not going to happen. It used to happen for like Call of Duty and stuff, but they only like by a few weeks people would move around out of the way like that, not like out of the year. You know what I mean? Especially in games of different genres and stuff. I've seen different takes on it all. I mean, ultimately, I think it's still just a couple things. I think one is fallout from the middle of the development cycle on a lot of these games that are supposed to be dropping this year happened in the middle of the pandemic, right? So it still affects, even though the game's slated for 2022 and we're kind of moving past the worst part of all of that situation, doesn't mean it didn't have an effect on it, and they're not as far along as they would have maybe hoped to be. So I think that's a big part of it. Number one. Number two, I think there is stuff with like a lot of the development tools and stuff had been like late getting to a lot of the developers as opposed to when they thought they were going to be getting them originally. Remember all the talk before like this generation started? Fidelity FX, we got all this NVIDIA shit and all these like RDNA stuff and like all these things. It's like, it's going to be amazing. And then ray tracing out the ass. Yeah, let's go. And then it's like, we haven't really, we've seen a lot of improvements with games. We've seen like a lot of benefits with next gen and stuff, but we haven't really heard a lot or seen a lot from the devs that are really showcasing a lot of this new tech yet. And I think because a lot of those games that are being made have been waiting on stuff to really get implemented to really utilize some of this stuff. And I think maybe the part of the implementation potentially, this is hypothetical. I don't know. This is speculating, maybe a lot of the implementation maybe wasn't as smooth as they thought it would be, or maybe it's just taking longer to get up to speed on some of these new things and stuff like that. But I think ultimately, like, delays, I don't ever mind, right? It just sucks when there's so many of them in 1 year. Like Xbox's entire first party lineup almost got delayed out of this year, right? You got Starfield, you had Redfall. Now we have we got other games come. We have As Dust Falls and Pentiment. That's like technically their first party lineup this year, right? So it was kind of a rough year for first party games, and then it showed that it's not just the first parties that are having the issue. It's third parties as well. You've seen so many delays, and you've also seen devs make different decisions and weird decisions, like, hey, we're gonna cut off like last gen, right, on a game that really could release on last gen, right? Like Gotham Knights or like Midnight Suns, right? Midnight Suns was one of those that cut it off too, right? I believe so. It just seemed like that's a game that could easily run on last gen. That doesn't.
Well, they said it's going to come later now,
right? So you see them like allocating resources, right, to trying to meet deadlines and stuff. We saw with Warhammer Darktide, they're still going to release on PC before the Xbox version. So you see they're trying to meet the deadlines as much as they possibly can right now. It's just like they can't hit them, right? Everybody's getting pushed out of this year. And I don't really know 100% what the answer is. I know that for all of 22's shortcomings, though, is going to be a big plus for 2023, ultimately. So even if 2022 does look really down on the books and everything for a lot of these companies, it just means for a higher projections probably for next year. So at the end, for me, it's kind of like what doesn't come around now will come around later. And ultimately, it's better for the games, right? We've seen the best games that are the most polished, that have the most content and stuff at launch, do the best, right? Elden Ring, again, was a great example. We've seen games that have come out with lacking content and lacking other features and lacking things like that, and sometimes even at higher price points, not do as well as they have in the past. And I think that's a big reason why the market is down a little bit across the board. But if you look at Bandai Namco, their numbers are way up, right? Astronomically up because of Elden Ring. So there's a path to do things properly and do things right. But that game was in development how long? 6-7 years,
7
maybe.
years.
Like, right. So these games take a long time to come out. And I know for Xbox, they didn't really start on a lot of these until 2018, 2019, some of them, right? So to really reach the kind of level of quality and standard, there's a wait, and it kind of sucks. It sucks ass, that we're in this time period where we should be reaping all these benefits and stuff, but still gotta wait. But you know what? There's plenty of stuff to play. For me, it's not a big deal. When I'm joking around all these games getting delayed, if they get delayed, I personally, it is what it is. It sucks a little bit because when you lose something you've been looking forward to, you get excited about, like a genuine excitement, right? I'm genuinely excited to play a lot of these games, and then they get pushed back. It's like, oh shit. And this year it feels even worse because we've been, actually, like, as a whole this year, we've been without many AAA big type games, period, for release this year, right?
Yep.
I mean, you can count on one hand, maybe even three fingers. Like, you got Dying Light 2, and you got Tiny Tina's, and you got Elden Ring, right? That's maybe like the three that were for multiplat. Then you had Horizon Forbidden West and the GT7. I would say that's the five probably biggest releases so far this year, right? We have Saints Row coming, we have Hogwarts hopefully, and some other big games still yet to come. But like, ultimately, this as a whole industry this year is like been down this first I would say 8 months for big time releases, and it's going to carry, I think, through the rest of this year. And I think we'll have a little bit of a resurgence like here, like going to September through November, and you're going to see some really cool stuff. And then hopefully that just carries momentum through next year, because I think next year is going to be absolutely insane across the board. Everybody, multiplats, first party, everything is going to be absolutely nuts, man. But what is your thoughts? Like, what do you think is the number one reason why all these games are getting delayed?
Yeah, before I get into that, $10 super chat from Dark CMF, who included a $50
$50? Wow.
code. Listen, if you got that code, please let us know. Please let us know in the chat. Thank you, Dark CMF. Again, brother, big supporter, does this at all different shows, man. So thank you so much, brother, for obviously spreading the joy around, man. I appreciate you so much for doing that. And the $10 super chat. Thank you. But please, if you guys did get the code, let us know. So Dark CMF knows it's all good. And let him know that you appreciate him as well. Listen, as far as this goes, I think Alvin was kind of reading my mind in the chat. Alvin, you were reading my mind, brother. I think this is a signal, Mav, that the games industry is changing. Yeah. And I think that this is something that we've been hearing about for quite a while. Obviously, we've talked about it many times when it comes to crunch, when it comes to games like Cyberpunk coming out, being broken and getting memed to death, and having the hate train jump on it, whether it was warranted or not. I think that the devs have finally gotten the picture. And like Shizno said in the chat, and this is Brother Steele's line all the time, games are art and should be treated as such, and art doesn't happen overnight. And I think back in the past, Mav, devs, because it was such a smaller industry, and there was less competition out there for people's time, you could release a broken game and get away with it. But I think nowadays, you even see a group like Bethesda, whose games have always been known to be buggy. They've got the nickname Bugthesda for a reason. But their games have still been absolutely fantastic, generational type games from the A-Team and Todd Howard, but they've been buggy. You see them delay Starfield, right? Something that never would have happened. And sure, part of that is going to be because they're now first party Xbox, and because Xbox can afford it. They can give them more time, but we're seeing this all over the place, Mav. And I think that the devs have gotten the picture, and I don't think they want to become a part of that trend that's now on social media. Even if this is a small community, there are things that happen that start here in the community that do filter out to the wider audiences that people pick up on, because everybody knows somebody, and things that get retweeted, there might be people that never are part of this community, but follow somebody who is a part of this community that sees some gaming news and they go, oh, what's going on? And they read it and then they go tell other people. That ripple effect does happen. Now, it can be to different varying degrees, depending on the title, depending on a bunch of different factors. But I don't think the devs want that anymore. I think that they really, and the publishers too, I think that they've all taken a step back at this point and reevaluated what was happening within the industry. And they're taking a look at games that have come out broken recently or not complete. And we've seen them wither and die on the vine within a matter of week or 2 weeks because there's so many games competing for people's times that, again, you kind of brought this up in your points as well, that you're not afforded that fix-it time anymore. That fix-it time has gotten less and less as we go by in the years here. So I think these devs are really scared. I think that they are wanting to make sure that their games come out as polished as possible, which is a benefit to us. Yes. Does it suck that we have to wait? Absolutely. I think the next step now, Mav, and we've talked about this, is that they stop giving us release dates. Again, I don't have a problem if they stop giving us release dates. Or
until like a couple months ahead of time, or like 2 months.
Yes.
You know,
again, like until you know it's locked, right? Until you know it's absolutely no way you are going to do anything to delay this game unless there's an absolutely game-breaking bug that shows up out of nowhere. There's nothing stopping you from going gold. Don't tell us. Or, as I suggested, whatever your internal release date is, add a year to that internal release date. So whatever date you normally would give us,
we exceeded our deadline, you know.
yes. Add a year, and then if you get the game ready and it comes out, surprise, hey, we're releasing early. You will get such a much better response. Even though we all gotten kind of used to this, and most of us gamers, again, there's a vocal minority and everything, but most of us are all like, hey, delay the game. If it's not right, delay it. You know, again, as disappointed as I was, as many times as I still cry that Starfield is not coming out in November right now, I still say, hey, they got to do what they got to do. If Bethesda need more time, they need more time. Do it. Make the game better. That's fine. I'll wait. And I think we've all gotten kind of used to that, but I think the devs now are readjusting. And I think with all these publishers kind of coming out one by one and saying, hey, we're a crunch-free game developers now. We got crunch-free studios now. That's become a big topic over the past few years. And I think that's all coming home to roost right now. And I think that's what we're seeing. These games were already announced. A lot of them had already gotten release dates. Midnight Suns, like you said, have already been delayed once, and they came back with another date and told us, right, another window, and that had to be pushed again.
Yeah, and that's another one where they're separating the releases of the current gen and the last gen.
Yes,
right.
Yes, that was included in their message, was that the current gen will come out early 2023, and then at a later date we will see the older gen versions.
Yeah.
So I just think they've gotten. I think they've gotten the point, and I think the publishers know the risks are too big, that it's worth spending the extra money to give them extra development time these days than to bring out a broken game or to bring out a game that is less than complete and throw it out to the wolves. And because the wolves now go on the attack, and if it's not right, you're going to hear about it, and you're going to hear about it a lot.
I think you're onto something too, man, because like a Battlefield, like if that franchise can struggle as much as it did, right, then it's like really that nothing's really bulletproof, right? You've seen COD's numbers go down, you've seen Battlefield's numbers tank, right? And then you've seen Cyberpunk, which was one of the most highly anticipated games of all time, just have one of the craziest after launch time periods I've ever seen from a high profile game like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost to the level of like ET, right? Like, it's like people are just like, we were lied to, like this is trash and all this stuff, which wasn't, like, I don't think it was a bad game at all, right? Like, but that's how people felt, a lot of them, right? And like, I feel like you're onto something there, where it's like, in this day and age where stuff spreads around and information carries around so much, and voices are heard louder, and the gamers' voices are louder than they've ever been before, I think that it has an impact more than it ever did, right? before the name of a franchise could carry a lot of weight, even through a lot of the flaws,
Yep.
And then
Correct.
then they would play catch up and they would get on track, and they would, deliver what they had originally promised. And that's kind of what Halo's going through right now.
Correct.
Yep. And we're hype slowly building back for it, right? Because they're starting to have more buzz about content coming and things like that.
Because all the Forge videos.
But not all publishers are committed when they lose their player base, right?
Right. And most publishers can't afford it, right?
Right.
I mean, there's a time and point where you just got to cut bait, because it's going to cost you too much to fix. We saw that with EA and Anthem, right?
Yeah.
So again, that's been, one of the problems we've had with EA in the past. If they had just given BioWare that time that they required and the extra resources, Anthem could have come out and been a freaking amazing game. Love that game. Love the core gameplay, but they didn't want to give it the time and resources. They pushed it out the door. It came out incomplete. They decided it wasn't worth it to fix it, and they cut bait even after they came out and said, we're going to do 2.0. It's going to come back.
What was even worse with that was with Anthem, and I've heard a lot of Anthem talk lately because of the Iron Man rumors, right? What was even worse about Anthem was they actually pulled the content that they had planned. They pulled the slate, right? They had content slate planned out, and they had retracted that to put full efforts into 2.0, right? So instead, people didn't even get the original planned content or 2.0 because they gave up on 2.0. So maybe if they had stuck to the original content, they could have kept the player base at least a little bit more engaged. But EA, that's when I raised alarm bells about whenever EA is tied to a big thing, like they just have a history of if it doesn't succeed, we're going to put a shell team on it and move on, right?
Yep.
And into something else. And that's my biggest worry with some of these games that EA is making. But I'm hoping they do learn their lessons from Battlefield, right?
Right.
And
That's
what they said rings true,
Yeah.
But yeah, delays. We are supposed to get a Need for Speed announcement probably pretty soon.
Yeah, we are. And
maybe that'll be a 2022 game.
Supposedly it is. We'll see.
Supposedly November, right?
Yeah. We'll see. There might be some surprises still. Gamescom, Keely's hinting at some surprises, which is crazy for Gamescom.
It could be a Need for Speed. Could be there. There was actually an EA event scheduled, isn't there? Like for sometime around September.
I think so. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So there's
EA,
that and Ubisoft.
Or no, wait. Is it Ubisoft? Ubisoft has got one too, right?
I think
they got the Assassin's Creed.
You know what? And maybe Ubisoft show, and then maybe EA will take advantage of this of Gamescom potentially. Right.
Yep. Absolutely. Something like that. And go Poe. You're right. You're right. I hate. He says. They say I hate saying it, but the audience now is very entitled and spoiled. Expectations are way out of proportion to what's real, and people are unreasonable. And I think the devs have gotten that picture. That's a part of. That's a part of what happens in social media, right? And I think the devs, yes, some of it is on the devs and publishers when they do certain things, and we give them criticism for that. But you've obviously heard me and Mav criticize the community. The community is full of entitled gamers nowadays. Again, that's why I say for me, and that's why Mav says for him, look, do what you got to do. We got plenty to play out here, right? I don't again, I could try to put myself in the shoes of somebody who only plays AAA blockbusters and that's all they look forward to. And so when one gets delayed, it's like, life ending, like at that point, as far as a gamer goes. But I can't understand it because there's so much goodness out here right now. It's insane. But you are right, Gogopo. That's a part of it. And I think the devs, again, we've heard that too. We've heard that to start expecting publishers, studios to start pulling back from social media and going dark more and more and finding other avenues to obviously promote a game that they want to promote without having those entitled gamers have access to their devs to harass them.
Forspoken has had this marketing campaign go on with Twitter right now, and they're getting absolutely killed right now with some of the feedback, right? And I think a lot of people just need to wait and play the game, or if they're interested in it. If they're not interested in it, don't get it. But ultimately, it didn't I get what people are saying with that game too. It's just something that is a little weird with that game. It's just kind of, I don't know. But I've seen some people with weird ass comments too, like saying like, "Oh, this looks like it should be an Xbox exclusive instead of a PlayStation."
God, I saw that one too. Oh my God.
And I'm like, what does that even mean? And first off, this is a Square game, so if PlayStation's buying Square, this is probably what you're going to get a lot more of. So, enjoy that. First off, secondly, you know what? I don't know. The game just doesn't look very good. Period. Like point blank. No matter what.
And I'm in a totally different camp than you. I think it looks really good.
For
yeah,
me,
and I think it looks really good. And I don't have any problem with the dialogue. And you know me, Mav.
Yeah.
I'm one of the first ones to shout out stupid stuff. And for me, it fits because of where she's coming from and where she's at.
Right, because it's like
the character.
Yeah, because it's like what's happening kind of thing.
If you and I all of a sudden got transported to some magical, mystical world of high fantasy, do you think we would all of a sudden stop talking how we talk? We'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Why am I seeing dragons right now? What the fuck is this? We'd be out there talking the same type of shit.
You also like that old Dungeons and Dragons movie, though.
Right. Correct. But that was supposedly set in Dungeons and Dragons. But
right.
But again, I still liked it for what it was. It was campy as all get out.
I'm gonna hold judgment for this game. Yes. I just don't like the marketing with it. I don't think or the way it's marketed right now with the Twitter things they're doing, these little Twitter clips and stuff, is like, I don't know. It just like, it doesn't look very appealing. It kind of turns me off of the game as opposed to make me excited. Whereas the initial reveals they had for the game got me excited for it. I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to that, checking that out. Right now I'm like losing interest because of the way they're marketing it. So but like you said, maybe that's why people are going dark, right? Because guess what? People like me or other people or whatever are going to overreact to like this marketing campaign that they have and pick it apart, overanalyze it and dissect it, be like, oh, this sucks ass, or I'm not going to get this game now. And you make a good point too, but also like overall, one thing that's, and maybe there's a little bit more of it than in the past, but ever since games have been like on disc where there's an internet connection and you have a hard drive on your console, right? Mm-hmm. Or games have always had this thing. And even before then, like games have released where they had to cut content before the launch, right? Going back to the history of gaming, when a game is about to be shipped and they got to make a decision, ship it or cut content or whatever. That's always a decision. And a lot of times, and some of people's most favorite games of all time had a shit ton of content cut out of it before release, right? That people just don't even know. Some of them famously did, like Halo 2, right? And other games. And people are like top 10 list of all time favorite games, right? But when you look back at like the history and you think back on it, you don't remember all those things. You just remember the damn good time you had playing the games, right? And guess what? Like Battlefield or whatever had a lot of bugs at launch, and it had missing features and stuff. But like if you play that game every day right now, you're gonna have a great time, right? Like it's a good game. Like overall, like they built a solid game there that was marred by launch issues, and they had it fixed for the most part pretty quickly. But other games too, like Cyberpunk, right, is going to live in infamy for that first few months, right? But how quickly were those big horrible problems fixed within a few months, right? And now that game's going to live on forever. But guess what? Damage is done because of social media. Where in the past these things didn't get so loud. You know what I mean? We've had issues like this with Assassin's Creed in the past. You remember Assassin's Creed, like Unity or whatever, and like the skeleton face was like T-posing. Yep. You've had it with basketball games, even NBA 2K and NBA Live. NBA Live's dead because of it, because they just couldn't figure out how to make a damn game anymore. But like, you've had a lot of history of like these issues with games, and this is not a new problem, right? This is not a new thing. But people on social media and stuff a lot of times act like, well, they don't just make games like they used to. Well, this has been the way it's been for like damn almost 15 years. You know what I mean? So like, it's not a really lot different. I would say the difference is the scale and the ambition of the games, right? Right. The ambition and the scale of the games are even bigger. And guess what? That makes for like more excitement at times, and also makes for more hurt feelings when things aren't exactly as you plan. And I think with social media out there, it's just like people are really voicing their opinions on a lot of this stuff. and it gets a lot of backlash and causes issues with the publishers. Publishers lose, they see the player base is gone, they move on from the projects, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of the trend we're in right now.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're at. You know, and Shizno, I agree with you wholeheartedly, brother. If the devs and the pubs all decided to go back to the old days where we didn't get news until they were ready, or the news we got was 3 months old because we were reading magazines and there was no social media, I'm cool with that. I'm totally down. I'm the guy who says, show me everything. I don't care. But I'm also the guy that if you're going to surprise me, if you guys all want to go dark, and you don't want to tease something until you're ready to tease it, or you don't want information getting out to the public before you're ready, go for it. I totally understand, because again, these days, yes, it's give and take. They gain a lot when they get a lot of positive feedback off of social media. It's free advertising for them. That's the reason why all this started. But again, the risk is the exact opposite, and you can have a game die before it even shows up, and people can even try it. So absolutely, Shizno, agree with you 100%, brother. If they want to go back to the old days, I'm all for it. Go for it. We'll still find content. We'll still find something to talk about out here. It'll just be more surprise. But I think, Mav, overall, just kind of end this discussion here, I think this is also part of Microsoft's plan, Xbox's plan, why they did the 12-month showcase, right? I think it has a lot to do with that. I think Xbox finally realized they were showing things way too far in advance. Of course, they listened to the community, and the community was screaming, show us, show us, show us. And again, I'm one of those people, but see, I don't set my expectations like a lot of people do. So I'm not one of those people that complain. Like if a Fable doesn't come out till 2024, 2025, I'm cool with that. Like, I'm not going to complain that they showed it to me or showed me a teaser, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. That doesn't matter to me. So, but there's enough people in the community who do that stuff that I think Xbox has finally figured out, hey, we're showing things way too far in advance. We don't know, now that we've gone to this crunch-free development cycle, now that our teams are being given all this time that they need, we don't know for sure. So maybe we need to pull back on what we're showing all the time. And yes, I still believe they have to sell us on the future a little bit every once in a while, but I think they're going to control that narrative a little bit better by going to these 12-month kind of, release date shows where they're just going to focus on what's in the near future. And then every once in a while, maybe sprinkle in some tease for something down the road. But I think overall, the industry is going through this change. And I think that's why we're seeing these delays. And maybe, Mav, maybe Firaxis is going back to the drawing board with Midnight Suns. And that's why they need more time. And they're going to tone down the card action. And they're going to give us more of an XCOM Marvel game like we originally wanted.
The only time I wanted to see cards in that game is if they were in Gambit's hands.
Yes, facts. I agree.
I don't even think Gambit's in the game, so.
Not as of right now, but they do have DLC already for it planned, so with extra characters. So, but damn, that game did show back up on my hype list.
I'm getting excited for it again too. I'm really, what's really badass though? Period Pong.
Yeah.
Period Pong. Sorry. This last generation, we kind of skipped all these strategy genres on console and stuff. And like, we're just getting more and more and more, like left and right, out the ass, out the wazoo. Like the variety of gaming this generation is next level, dude. Like Midnight Suns is maybe not what I expected when they first announced it, but it is so different than anything else coming out, right? The DioField Chronicle, dude, nothing like any other JRPG strategy tactics type game I've played. It's so different, man. You have a really unique take. I freaking love it. So many different cool games, dude. And you add on top of that all the compatibility with the last generations and stuff. And there's no shortage of stuff really to play, even with all these delays, because the variety is there, man. It is absolutely crazy, dude, to be able to look at the upcoming games list and see like all these different genres and stuff that we used to skip console, used to skip Xbox or PlayStation or whatever, like now coming, and it's pretty awesome. We're getting freaking Tactics Ogre Remaster,
bro.
Like that's it's like maybe a little overpriced. I don't know, maybe potentially, but
$49.99.
Who cares? I'm gonna play the shit out of that game because you know what?
That's hundreds of hours, man. Tactics Ogre is just like Final Fantasy Tactics. I know. Again, it's right. I still put Final Tactics above it, but Tactics Ogre is right there.
Yeah.
Tactics Ogre is one of the goats, man. Hundreds of hours if you're going to get down and dirty with it.
And why is it skipping Xbox? I have no earthly idea. It's releasing on everything else, unless PlayStation just said, "Hey, we're going to market this. Just don't release it on Xbox." Do you think they could actually do that and still release it on Switch? I mean, I don't know what's possible nowadays, but it seems like who knows what's possible, because I think we're about to have some interesting conversations about that here in a minute.
We are. We definitely will have some interesting conversations. A side tangent to what you were just saying too, man. But when we're talking about the golden age of gaming and why we always put that forward and why we've been putting that forward since both of us started in this community is what you're talking about, man. The diversity of gaming has never been greater than right now. And what we're seeing is actually companies go back to taking chances again on brand new IP, or taking chances on old IP in genres that are very niche, that aren't big, but they know they can re-put them out again. And now there's such a base of people out there playing games that they can expect considerable sales out of those titles, even if it isn't the biggest genre, like a strategy tactics game, like those types of RTS games. We're starting to see that come back. And now that consoles are closer to PC than ever before, it's making it easier for them to bring those games. Again, publishers like Calypso Media, one of my favorite publishers out there, who've been doing the work for a long time when other people weren't willing to do it. They kind of set the trend, and people are starting to recognize that, hey, we can cultivate a new fan base. Even if it starts out small, we can cultivate this new fan base because more people are trying different types of games now with subscription services like Game Pass, etc. We can put these games out there, maybe find some magic. And so that's what's exciting for me. And then, you know, I'll just bring this up real quick. We don't have to have a big discussion. We got lots to talk about, but you see Capcom, brother, the resurgence of Capcom has been something special. And now we are getting the old Capcom from the 360 days. Yes, I'm in the camp that wants Dino Crisis to be remade and come back, okay? I'm in that camp. It's heartbreaking that we haven't gotten an announcement yet that Dino Crisis is coming back. But let me tell you something. Exo Primal, Mav,
looks pretty legit, yeah.
Brother, again, why I say this is because during the 360 era, when Capcom was one of the kings, when their Street Fighters were selling nonstop, when the Resident Evils were selling nonstop, when they were just making money hand over fist, they didn't just sit on their laurels. They had their studios coming out with games like Lost Planet.
Yeah.
That nobody saw coming. I still remember when Lost Planet was revealed, everybody was like, what is this?
Yeah, it was badass, dude. You had like
and
this
then people started playing it.
Big monsters and stuff. Yeah.
Yes. And it turned into a big, giant new franchise that, at least through the first two, was highly popular.
And I believe that game was pretty popular in Japan, actually, as well.
Yeah, huge in Japan. The multiplayer in Japan, again, when I used to hop on multiplayer, the first Lost Planet, I was a multiplayer fiend. Okay, I loved the multiplayer in the first one, but when you'd hop into those servers, it was nothing but Japanese names. It would be a couple of us Americans sprinkled through. Otherwise, it was all Japanese gamers. That was a gigantic game from Capcom, an original IP that nobody saw coming. And here comes Exo Primal now. Yes, it's not Dino Crisis. Yes, we were all disappointed when we saw the dinosaurs, when we saw the red-haired girl, and then we realized, oh, this isn't Dino Crisis. What the heck is this? The more they show this game, go to their Twitter page and go look what they've released this week from videos. This game is freaking Anthem with dinosaurs, but you can now they just released this week that there's points because it's not just PvE, it's PvE VP, and you're competing against other teams. You can go to certain spots and launch dinosaurs at the other team, and you actually get to control the dinosaur. Yo, done. I am in day one on this game. Me and Steele have been going back and forth into DMs. This is going to be a game that we are going to sink our teeth into, but this is the old Capcom, man.
Yeah.
The golden age of gaming is here, brother. These companies, not everyone, we still got companies out here that are still doing, stupid stuff and not understanding what they're doing anymore. But some of the companies that get it, like Capcom, man, they're going back, and we're going to see some really cool new IP come out of this this entire generation.
Yeah,
and
Capcom and Bandai Namco are carrying the Japanese studios or publishers for me right now. You know, we got lots to look forward to with Square, but there's a lot of disappointing things as well. Sega's got a lot of cool stuff, but like really those two, I've just like stepped it up, dude, big time. And I'm not speaking of Street Fighter. I mean Capcom. We got Street Fighter coming next year, but also Tekken was just a tease. So we're gonna have. I mean, think about
fighters coming back.
Yes, the genres coming back to glory. I want. Last generation, I felt like, you know, the racing genre kind of fell off, and the Forza kind of held it on its own, right? And then like the Gran Turismo didn't even have like a real release, did they? Like last generation was just GT Sport. I don't even remember if they had like a was it GT.
Yeah, they just had GT Sport.
That's it, right?
That's it. Yeah.
I think so. And then we had you know, some really bad Need for Speed games, a couple of decent ones and stuff, and like the whole racing genre kind of fell off. The fighting genre was held up by Killer Instinct at launch of the Xbox One, and then we had you know, we had a Mortal Kombat was really good. You know, Street Fighter was not what it normally was at all, and the whole fighting genre kind of just fell off because of only a couple of franchises lifting it up, right? I feel like this generation is like a resurgence of like categories, like genre specific categories of propping them back up and becoming big like they should be. Like I want to see the days when it's like a debate, what's better, Street Fighter or Tekken, right? Last generation, it was hard to argue for either. Yeah, just being straight with you. Like there's some other good fighting games out there, but like those two really took a step down last gen. You know, and they need to take a huge step up because they used to carry those two plus Mortal Kombat used to be the trifecta, you know?
Yep.
And then racing, you had Need for Speed, you had Midnight Club, you had Forza, and you had Gran Turismo, right?
Yep.
Like, let's get back like to these classic franchises. Let's get some new ones too, right? Some new ones too, but I want to see these classic franchises that we love raised back up to prominence, dude. And I'm hoping the Need for Speed reveal kind of does that for like that arcade racing genre, right?
Oh, so. You and me both. You know that. I'm all about the Need for Speed coming back, man. We need that. Look, we got Test Drive coming too next year. And Test Drive has a real chance to even go back to some of our further racing love, right? You know, again, this is all because of where the industry is right now. This explosion of growth that all these companies are trying this stuff again. Only thing we need now is fighter side, Mav. Really, we need a Killer Instinct announcement, but we also need a tease for new Soul Calibur, and the circle will be complete at this point.
Give big budgets to these games. Correct. I think the bigger these publishers do, the more they can allocate to these other genres and stuff that they've kind of held down a notch. You know, I feel like Soul Calibur was like really big, and then the last couple releases, there was like not much marketing behind it at all. There was like they kind of removed some of the features and stuff away, and it's like, come on, like. Let's get back to like being the best, you know?
Right. Right. Exactly. So. Go back to Star Wars again, Soul Calibur. Bring back Yoda and Darth.
God, oh man, that's so good. I used to make so many badass custom characters in Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur 4, dude. Oh, I made all the Ninja Turtles. I made like Altair from Assassin's Creed. Dude, I had like all these amazing freaking characters. And I wonder if they still is that back compat?
Soul Calibur. Yes, I believe it is actually back compatible.
I wonder if those created characters would be in the cloud if I went back and played
if you had your saves up there, I wouldn't doubt that they are. I think it is back compatible. Yeah.
Man, I would love to go back and see if I still have my characters.
Oh, that'd be so cool, man. Especially if you could post them and play with them so everybody could see them.
Yes, again. Dude. I made like all the Ninja Turtles. It was badass stuff, dude. It was so much fun. I miss that. I miss those days with a lot of those fighting games. Let's get back to it, guys. You know, put money in these these publishers consider second tier genres. I feel like they put so much into first person shooters and RPGs and action adventure games and stuff, and it's like, these are gonna make these for the racing fans. We're gonna make these games for the fighting fans, but we're not gonna like prop them up. Those used to be the biggest genres, right? You know. Anyway, all right, I'm done ranting.
No. Totally agree with you, man. It's a good rant because it's exciting to see this stuff happen. And there's a possibility that all of that could happen, right? Again, we heard Rockstar might be bringing back Midnight Club.
Oh, dude, yes, it's happening. We're calling that, Pong. I mean, we've talked about it. And behind the scenes, we both think that's happening. Midnight Club coming back. I mean,
although there was word out of the recent Rockstar, I don't know if you saw that, Matt. It was a little footnote, but out of the recent Rockstar investors call or whatever they did, where they were talking about their numbers, they also did low key cancel another project, which they wrote off like I don't know, like $21 million or something. Another unannounced project. So that's 2 projects that they've killed off over the past year that we know about. So
yeah, one of them was remasters of what
hopefully
maybe
that's all it was the remasters. But remember, there was a rumor that Mafia was being made coming back again, and that could potentially be the one from Hangar 10, Hangar 17, whatever the heck it is. That was killed off. That was the first one. Now this one too. So hopefully Midnight Club is still on, because I think, again, they really wanted Codemasters, and they really wanted Codemasters for a reason. So I think that they might be working on that background. So yeah, let's make that happen.
Just says Hangar 13.
Hangar 13. Thank you. Got it. 10, 17, 13. I'll get it right eventually. You just let me keep going. Hangar 13. Thank you. Man, where do you want to go next? You want to go big topic, or should we talk about some a little bit Gamescom, what Xbox is going on there, and some of the rumors, some of the stuff that grain of salt stuff with the xCloud stuff potentially.
Let's start with that, because I think it's going to get pretty passionate with the other thing. We can get some of this, you know.
All right, let's get this out of the way. So Gamescom, listen, Gamescom has been around. It's been popular for a very long time. It's been around for a while. It's been one of those kind of low key events. Not a whole lot of surprises, big news, more product related, more like controllers, hardware stuff comes out of Gamescom than actual games. Feels like and sounds like, Mav, that could be changing this year. Now, Keighley had a little
Keighley effect.
Yeah, the Keighley effect, because Keighley's involved in this year. He came out today and put out a tweet that basically said, hey, expect some surprises. There is going to be some stuff that you didn't think we were going to see that we're going to see this year. And he said into 2023. He said, I think there was going to be like 20 games. I think he said something like that showing. And then also on top of that, Microsoft, Xbox came out with an Xbox Wire this week promoting Gamescom. And look, everybody's out there, Mav. Sarah Bond's out there. Phil's out there visiting. Phil went ahead of everybody else, and he's been visiting studios over in like London and all these places this week. We saw him out there in the wild. Greenberg's been talking about this. We've got people that we have never heard of from Xbox popping up on Twitter and saying, hey, can't wait to be at Gamescom. Right. Listen, this is kind of like sounded like a mini, I'm not going to say E3 week, but this is sounding like a mini kind of big show for them coming up. And we talked about this, map, that we thought that they might have to start including more shows like this, but also in the Xbox Wire, they gave a breakdown, and I'll read it real quick. Live from the Xbox booth at Gamescom on Thursday, August 25th from 2 p.m. CEST time, 8 p.m. From 2 p.m. CEST time to 8 p.m. CES time, or 5 a.m. Pacific time to 11 a.m. Pacific time. Hey, you are on the West Coast, get ready to get up early.
Yeah.
We'll also host a special day of live streamed conversations. Expect developer interviews and gameplay from various Xbox studios, including Mojang, Obsidian, and World's Edge, plus Xbox Game Studios Publishing and their partners at Asobo. In addition to some of our highly anticipated games from our third-party partners. Join us for the whole stream, or tune in for the latest on your most anticipated titles. Keep an eye on Xbox social channels for full content schedule in the days leading up to Gamescom. Here's a taste of what to expect. Microsoft Flight Simulator, Gunfire Reborn, Sea of Thieves, Lies of P. Now that was the one that got me going. If you guys don't remember what Lies of P is, that's that Bloodborne-like game, and it's a take on a dark Pinocchio story.
Yeah.
Which was a third party Well, it's showing up on stage at Xbox. So we got marketing rights here at least. Liza P is going to be there. High on Life, Grounded, Pentiment, Plague Tale Requiem, Minecraft Legends, Planet of Lana, and the last one they put on here, which also got me to go, because we talked about this potentially being the spot, Age of Empires 4. Now, it could just be another update, but we speculated this could be the spot where they announced the console version that we've all heard is probably in the making. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but Age of Empires 4 is going to be there. The live English language broadcast from Xbox Gamescom booth will be available in German, French, Polish, Italian, Spanish, Latin American, and Castilian, Brazilian, Portuguese, Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. Look, they're going all out here, Matt. This is worldwide stuff here. Like they are expecting people to be watching this show, and they're doing a much better job, which was always one of the criticisms we had of getting that worldwide flavor to it by offering different languages all the time. Well, guess what? They got a whole dang list here.
Yeah.
Including, of course, all of the sign language, hearing impaired. They're going to have everything available for the show. And then, Mav, if that wasn't enough this week, there seemed to be a little hiccup in the Xbox system, a little workaround that some people found out about. Now, take all this with a grain of salt, because Xbox has come out and said it was a bug, it was a mistake, it's been fixed. But anything you guys saw, that was just a bug. But it did come out this week that there was a whole list of games that were not in Game Pass but would be available to be played through xCloud directly. And this list was extensive, Mav. I don't know if you've got the list anywhere.
I know that Idle Sloth was out there collecting. He was searching for them, and then
he was searching for it. I don't remember if anybody posted the actual list in any of our spots. But this list also included Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Amongst many other big giant games as well. Elden Ring.
I do have the list here.
Do you have the list? Go ahead, read it off if you got it right there.
All right, so this is 45 games that rumored to potentially be playable on xCloud in the future without being in Game Pass, just if you own the game, right? Part of your library, I guess, being playable. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Batman Arkham City, Battlefield Bad Company 2, Burnout Paradise Remastered, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I think the first Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty, or maybe this new one, I don't know, Call of Duty Vanguard, Code Vein, Control Ultimate Edition, Cyberpunk 2077, Dark Souls 3, Dying Light 2, Elden Ring, F1 22, Far Cry 6, FIFA 22, Forspoken, Forza Horizon 3, Kingdom Hearts, Godfall, Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. That's halfway through the list. Grand Theft Auto 4, Grand Theft Auto 5, GTA Online, Lego Star Wars, The Skywalker Saga, Lost Odyssey. That one's pretty cool. Max Payne, Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne, Metal Gear Solid HD editions 2 and 3, Multiverses, Red Dead Redemption 2, Red Dead Online, Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Village Gold Edition. That was interesting that they actually, like, just the Gold Edition. Okay, Saints Row, the new one, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Game of the Year Edition, Soul Hackers 2, Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition, The Quarry for Xbox One, V-Rally 4, Witcher 3, and WWE 2K22.
Yeah, and Shizno, this is a list of games that were again, there was a bug, as Xbox calls it, in the system where people could search. These are a list of games that are not in Game Pass that are going to be supposedly playable on xCloud now. Now, this is something that we talked about, Matt, because Jez broke this a while back, and we had been speculating on this for a long time, that eventually Xbox was going to give you the ability, as their xCloud gets better and better. Let me tell you right now, playing at home, it's fantastic. playing on 5G, fantastic. Listen, as this gets better and better, that they were going to give people the ability to only play through xCloud if they want to, and to be able to purchase games and play games through xCloud that were not within the Game Pass system. And then we're not talking about just streaming from your console. We're talking about just straight up playing from xCloud. And that this was the next step as they introduced the apps to the TV, all of that stuff. We've heard about them making xCloud available, maybe from the PC side on a console, which, Mav, you just said Forspoken's on that list. When's if I could buy and play Forspoken through the cloud and never had to own a PS5 or a PC? How freaking great would that be for somebody like me who has a good connection? Now, would it be the best experience? No. But would it be something that I'd be interested in? Yeah, instead of waiting 2 years on timed exclusivity or wait until I get a PS5? Yeah. This is the next big step. Now, again, Xbox came out and officially said this was just a bug, that none of this was real. Again, included in that was Elden Ring. There was also on the Game Pass advertising underneath the Xbox official site, Elden Ring was listed as coming to Game Pass. Now, we saw some of this with Madden right before the show. There was a lot of speculation going on about that, which we talked about as well. But Elden Ring was showing up clear as day as available in Game Pass. All right, Mav. So we know that xCloud Group is specifically going to be at Gamescom. They've officially announced it. The xCloud dev team is going to be at Gamescom. They're going to have the stage for a period of time where they talk about xCloud. Seems like the perfect spot. What do you think, brother? Is Xbox trying to just play this off as a bug when we know in reality this is all coming? Or what's your impressions of all this, man?
Well, we know it's eventually coming because they've told us that they've been working on this, and it was part of their ideas for the future of Game Pass and for cloud gaming, right? Like from the get-go. That was part of their marketing and their original pitch to everybody when they kind of started talking about it. Like, hey, xCloud, and you're going to be able to play the games that you own and the games in Game Pass in the cloud. And they're like, well, they said, well, we're only going to have the games in Game Pass for now, but in the future, maybe we'll be able to add games that you own. Now, I think there's a lot of licensing and publisher stuff that goes on with the back and forth and the contracts and stuff that they had to work out. And I think part of this list is maybe some of the deals that they've gotten worked out with some of these publishers. And I'm not going to say that 100% that this list is accurate because, I shout out to Idle Sloth who put this list together. Thanks to a lot of people in the community who shared information with him and stuff. But, right now Microsoft's coming out and saying that, this is not, this is just a bug or whatever. But if you add that up to what we knew that they were going to be working on, which they've already told us they're trying to work on, it just adds up. And with the whole xCloud team being there as well, it kind of leads you to think that maybe an announcement of at least a handful of these games could be potentially due soon. And maybe the bug was that not all of them were supposed to be actually there visible, right? Because they haven't announced anything yet. And who knows how long this pipeline will go to where they're actually able to drop these. Now, what would it mean for me would be freaking incredible because I got a Steam Deck and I can play those games on a Steam Deck that I own. And that's a perfect way to play these games because, on that screen, if you're only playing at 1080p, guess what? It doesn't matter. That actually the screen doesn't even do 1080p. It's like 800p or whatever, and it looks great. So I got to show that to Psycho and 3-Bit when they were here. They got to check out like xCloud on that thing, play the Assassin's Creed Origins and the Skyrim and stuff. And it's pretty incredible, man. So this is the next thing, right? And this is another thing that this makes me think about, Pong, and a part that not a lot of people were talking about with the whole Xbox's family plan announcement with the $25 potential. If you put that into perspective, like for me, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? But a lot of people are like, I don't have 3 Xboxes, right? If you have a family of more than 2 people, at that point, it would be potentially worth it because guess what? Households already have more than 2 devices that can play Xbox, right? And the more that's only going to add up more and more. You have tablets, you got phones, you got PCs, you got smart TVs, right? And those newer TVs already are going to have the app built in. They also talks of like they're reworking that streaming stick, that whatever, whenever that comes out. You got a low price in the Series S that's readily available. You're going to be able to get these consoles with Verizon. The amount of the ease of access into the ecosystem is like super low, right? Now, are you going to be able to get a family of 5 for everybody to sign up to a $15 subscription, right? Families aren't you trained that way. What if you had to get a $15 or a Netflix subscription for every person in your house, right? Like it wouldn't work. Now, okay, let's say that you could only play Netflix on one account. Let's say your kid wants to watch something, you want to watch something in the other room. You got to pay for 2 Netflix subscriptions. What if your wife wants to watch something and y'all are all watching stuff in different rooms of the house? This is the kind of stuff that's going on, right? And to have that family subscription go in there, mixed with this, you're going to be able to carry your library on the cloud, right? Mixed with Game Pass, mixed with all the other perks and stuff in it. It all adds up into the future that they see for gaming, right? It's not held by a barrier of a plastic box. Now, the plastic box is going to be a considerable part of that future because it's always going to be an option for people to access to get the best possible experience. But that's just one avenue, right? And so you add into the cloud gaming to actually play all these games that you own. That takes away one of the biggest hurdles of people buying a new game is owning a console, right? So at this point, Game Pass is already taken care of it in a lot of ways. But how do you think these publishers wouldn't be on board if they could say like, well, you mean somebody might buy Assassin's Creed or might buy Madden or might buy like Forspoken or whatever, any of these games, Elden Ring or whatever, and they don't even need to have a console? But how many players could we potentially open it up to? And we already saw that there was like 2 million new Fortnite players, right? Or at least a million,
over a million new to the
brand,
over a million new to the ecosystem, right?
Right.
That's what it
so
was.
imagine like a kid is like can't get a hold of an Xbox or whatever, can't get a hold of this. Just like, well, I get to play a console game, right, on their smart TV. You just got to get a controller. You got to, it just opens up the avenue so much, man. It just makes so much damn sense, and I'm happy for it. I think technology is only going to get better and better and better. And it would be great if that coincided with some new game, maybe like one new game announcement, or also maybe how about Age of Empires, making their way at Gamescom, like you said. I think they could have potentially the best Gamescom show they've had like ever, because they really don't do that much at Gamescom usually. It's usually just a rehash type stuff, a few of the same trailers, and then maybe like a brand new trailer of something that is like not one of the biggest games, but they gotta kind of have a little bit of excitement right now, because there's nothing to really majorly look forward to for the first party for the rest of the year. Yeah, they're gonna probably show Pentiment, I would assume, again, right? And they might highlight As Dusk Falls again because it's doing well and it's going to be critically acclaimed, I believe, right? But I think they're going to showcase Grounded, and they're going to showcase some of these other games that are like a big focal point of their 2022. But there needs to be at least one big surprise, and that could, like you said, just be the Age of Empires 4 coming to console. Because if you have nothing else this year, really, that's a big game. That you could take that and to help just ease the burden of 2022 for the first party lineup for console a little bit. That is a pretty damn big game. It's a historic franchise. It's a big release. You'll have a lot of people happy. And guess what? It may be really good for the franchise, because these really thirsty Xbox gamers that usually wouldn't try a game like Age of Empires, right? Maybe we'll give it a damn go because it's a big first party game releasing finally. But man, I hope this xCloud stuff comes out to be true, because we know it's coming, right? It's already a thing with Stadia. It has been with Stadia and stuff, buying a game via the cloud and stuff like that. So it already exists, but Xbox has had to work out the deals and kinks to make it happen on their ecosystem. I think that's this next step right here. And I think what's going to be interesting is like how they interacted with the games that we already own. Like, there's a lot of these games on this list. They got to get the publishers okay with like, okay, well, they already bought it. They didn't buy it on the cloud. Are you okay with letting them play it on the cloud? And I think we're going to see a lot of publishers that are on board with that, so that when they get used to playing them that way, when you get used to people playing it that way, then they'll be more likely to buy one, right? So, dude, it's all adding up. This is future gaming, man.
It's a future, and publishers understand this too. Like they see more detailed analysis than any of us get to see on users and where they're playing, and they also understand that the younger generations don't care.
Yeah,
man.
they ain't gonna give a shit.
They don't give a shit. They really don't. That the future is the more opportunity that you allow people, the more points of access to an ecosystem where they can purchase things, the better it is for everybody. And these younger generations, that's all some of them know is just playing off of a tablet, playing off of a phone. They don't care. They don't need the hardware. And if that is the future, and the publishers know that it's at least a part of the future, the near future. Now, we're not talking 25 years from now when maybe we don't need hardware at that point because tech has caught up so far. But right now, the near future is, yes, there's still a large portion of the 2 billion, 3 billion people playing, a majority that don't have hardware outside of a phone, tablet, app through TV or whatever the case may be. That's how they play their games. And so, yes, the developers, the publishers, they're all going to be on board with this. And I think that this is a moment in time, Mav, that we've been talking about, that if they're going to come out and, like you said, they don't have the biggest first party lineup for the end of 2022. Again, we already know, we've talked about this, that you generate more excitement by saying, guess what? We're giving access to more people. You don't want to buy, you can't buy a console right now. Don't worry. We got you. You're going to be able to start buying these games through xCloud. You're going to start accessing our storefront through whatever device you're on, and you're going to be able to stream this stuff. And guess what? We've invested so heavily into xCloud. We think you're going to be impressed with the results. Now, obviously, it will vary depending on where you are, but that's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So I think this is a big moment. And I think that as far as Gamescom goes, man, it's funny that Keighley's involved, and all of a sudden Microsoft's showing up with everybody. All of a sudden, everybody's showing up. Like, this was something that they planned for. This was obviously, again, these things are planned out over a year in advance. So they knew that they were going to hit this spot with something. Now, whether or not that meant that they knew they were going to have xCloud ready at this point or not, I don't know. We'll never know that stuff. But it's just funny, again, that all the big wigs are out there and they're all promoting it. And they come out with an Xbox Wire promoting it. Again, if this was a typical Gamescom show like you were talking about, Mav, they would not have done all this. They might have mentioned that they were going to be at Gamescom, but to put out this full list of some of the people that are going to be on stage, to have a block of stage time that they're going to be live streaming of 3 hours, that's saying a lot, that they're putting a lot here and that we could get some surprises out of this. Again, that Lies of P one really caught me off guard, because that's a game a lot of people are looking forward to. Now, is it a AAA? No. Is it from software making? No, of course not. But does it have that Bloodborne feel to it? Absolutely. And there's a lot of people on Twitter who have been posting things about Lies of P saying, I can't wait for this game. I can't wait for this game. And then if they do pull off Elden Ring and Game Pass, Mav, because obviously in Bandai Namco, Microsoft has a really strong relationship with Bandai Namco. I cannot stress that. They have an extremely strong relationship with Bandai. If they've seen those numbers and they've seen those sales, and we've all seen the sales charts, it's topping out week after week. And if they think they're finally getting to that pinnacle, and they've kind of projected out, and they think come around November time, that is kind of where they reach their peak, and then they're going to start to see those sales kind of start trailing off. And we know they're working on DLC for it, without a doubt. We know we're getting DLC next year for Elden Ring. Why not throw it in the Game Pass? And all those people that are still sitting on the fence that did not buy it have access to Elden Ring. And then after you put it in the Game Pass, you come out and say, oh, by the way, we got DLC coming in, whatever, first quarter next year, second quarter next year, whatever the case may be for Elden Ring. All those extra people are going to jump into Game Pass that have been sitting there saying, nope, I'm just not a Souls fan. I'm just not going to pay the money. I'm just not going to do it. Listen, they jump into Game Pass, they try it out, fall in love with it. They know it's eventually going to leave Game Pass. They purchase it, waiting on the DLC. It's extra sales that they may not have gotten it without it being there. If they could pull that off, that'll be a huge Game Pass win. Even though I already own the game, doesn't matter to me. It'll still be a huge Game Pass win for the holidays with a less than stellar first party lineup. And like you said, if Age of Empires 4 does get announced for console, that will still be, again, flight sim. It's a niche genre. Okay, it wasn't for everybody, but it was still a big promotion of what Xbox had going on. Age of Empires 4 will be the same thing. It'll be a big promotion because a lot of people are going to sit up and take notice that they got an RTS game, one of the biggest franchises in that genre, to come over to console, knowing that it's first party, which means that maybe the directive is out there that whatever first party game, whether it's on PC or not, if it goes to PC, it's got to come to console eventually. If that directive is real and we get Age of Empires 4, it's going to make some people sit up and take notice. And like you said, it's going to open up to a lot of new people that may never have tried Age of Empires 4. And all of a sudden they realize they like strategy RTS, that they like that kind of game. And all of a sudden now you got a whole new fan base, again, cultivating the fan bases of those different genres. So this could be a good spot for them to do something big at Gamescom. You know, again, they're not going to come out of the blue with something crazy, but just opening up access to more and more people, as they've talked about, is going to be a big deal no matter what. So,
there's not going to, I don't anticipate like anything from any of these games that are farther away or anything. Cause I think Aaron Greenberg also was like with the games releasing within the next 12 months. Again, that's kind of what they said that it's going to be focused on, just like the E3 show. But like, also, if you look at the list, there's a lot of badass games on that list, right? So who knows exactly what's going to be there, but I think, it's got a potential, like I said, it's going to be potential to be potentially the best Gamescom that I can remember. And if they do bring out that's what it would take. Age of Empire 4 come to console and announce this xCloud thing. You know what I mean? With Absolutely. Game ownership moving over to the cloud option.
100% agree. Hey, shout out to some new people jumping in the chat. Risk It for the Biscuit in here, straight out of Australia. Great to see you, sir.
How you doing there, mate?
Listen, it can only be a letdown. It can only be a letdown if you let it be a letdown, brother. That's all there is, man. It's a you thing. So I think Gamescom is going to be great, like we just talked about. Yeah. Jason Hackett, awesome to see you. Yep, that's exactly what we were talking about. Liza P will be there. It's already been announced, and that's one of the cool things that we saw. Razor NZ, all the way from New Zealand. Always awesome to see you. I know it is early morning. Whenever you jump in our chat, appreciate you. AJH. Shout out to you. I saw Gerald Mack jumping in here too. Brother, awesome to see you, sir. Thank you for dropping in here. Lore Master Jasper, the actually guy, is actually in our chat as well. Thank you, brother, for dropping in and saying hi. We appreciate you. Marlesco, great to see you. I don't know if I shouted you out before. I can't remember if you were in there or not, but I will always shout you out because you're a great supporter. Always around with us. And everybody who's in here right now, appreciate every single one of you. The chat has been really active tonight, which is good. Mav and I want to create discussions, and that's what it's all about. So thank you all for being here. And yes, AJH, we've tried to get him to stop doing those damn accents, but he just continuously does them. We hate it.
I will stop.
So annoying. It's cringy.
I will stop with the accents.
I didn't tell you to stop talking like a human being.
Okay.
You still got to be kind of natural.
All right, then, mate. Let's go on to the next topic now. Let's go.
Jesus. All right. I think we're just going to end the show. It's been great.
So I was trying to do a didgeridoo with this water, but it wasn't working out quite there yet, mate.
Sorry for all the Aussies in here. Risk it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Love you, Aussies.
So, Mav, let's get down to business. This has been an ongoing topic for 2 weeks now. 2 weeks this has been going. Of course, what we're going to talk about is the quotes coming out of the investigation, or I should say just overview of the Activision Blizzard acquisition. And of course, these have been coming the way of the Brazilian government because their laws are a little bit different than most places. And actually this stuff becomes public knowledge. So when their commission, their version of the FTC, DOJ, whatever it is called, is reviewing these types of deals, whatever comments are made to questionnaires and such as part of that review is made public. And so last week, of course, we got the Sony stuff, and then we got a little bit of the Microsoft stuff as well. Yeah. We got a little bit of the comments, but this week, man,
got fiery.
We got the fiery official.
Yeah, this is the real wars behind the scenes.
Yeah, this is the real stuff here. Xbox came out with the 6 guns blazing.
Now, what'd you say?
So this started all out. We first saw it come from VGC. Wrote a nice article on it. So of course, VGC overall really good website. Video Games Chronicle. They came out and said Microsoft refutes Sony's claims that its Activision. The Activision acquisition is anti-competitive. The claims are simply unjustifiable under any quantitative or qualitative analysis, is one of the quotes they use in their headline, the Xbox company says. They go into detail. Microsoft has responded to Sony's claims that an ongoing attempt to acquire Activision Blizzard would be anti-competitive, especially with regards to Call of Duty. Last month, Sony told Brazil's regulatory body, it's CADE, we'll just call it CADE, which, like many regions, is currently studying the proposed deal for approval, that the deal could influence players to switch from PlayStation to Xbox. Shocking. I know that they would spend $70 billion to try to convert some people over to Xbox. That's just crazy talk, man. At the time, it argued Call of Duty, quote, Call of Duty is so popular that it influences users' choice of console, and its community of loyal users is entrenched enough that even if a competitor had the budget to develop a similar product, it would not be able to rival it. Unquote. Now, in a 27-page document relating to the acquisition, Microsoft has replied to CADE, attempting to dismiss Sony's claims. In the report transcribed by VGC, Microsoft notes that while numerous third parties, including Ubisoft, Bandai Namco, gave their responses to CADE, Sony was the only company that claimed Call of Duty was in a genre of its own with no competition. Only one third party, Sony, excuse me, sorry about that. Only one third party, Sony, presented materially different opinions than the applicants and the other third parties consulted by the SG, Microsoft claims. Sony is isolated in this understanding and, curiously, even contradicts itself in its response to the letter, as will be detailed below. I told you, 6 guns were out, man. They were, they
didn't like what Sony said.
No, they didn't like it. And again, we all had conversations on this and pointed out most of this stuff ourselves, but it's always great to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, as it be. Microsoft pretty much validated everything that we had to talk about on shows last week. Microsoft goes on to state that Sony doesn't want to see Call of Duty games on Game Pass on day one because it, quote, is resentful of having to compete with Microsoft's subscription service, end quote. Quote, Sony's public statements on subscription games and its response to the SG's letter are clear. The response reads, Sony does not want attractive subscription services to threaten its dominance in the digital distribution market for console games. In other words, Sony rails against the introduction of new monetization models capable of challenging its business model. Where did you guys hear that last week? Interesting. Microsoft also denies Sony's claim that the Call of Duty is a quote, category of games in itself.
It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Oh my God, it's so stupid. Despite the fact that it has a loyal following. Quote, stating that Call of Duty has a loyal following is a premise from which does not follow the conclusion that the game is a gaming category per se, Microsoft claims. Sony's own PlayStation, incidentally, has an established base of loyal brand players. Such a finding, however, does not lead to the conclusion that the PlayStation or any branded product with loyal consumers is a separate market from all other consoles. Extrapolating from such a finding to the extreme conclusion that Call of Duty is a category of games per se is simply unjustifiable under any quantitative or qualitative analysis.
This also goes back to why they said before when people were like, Xbox says that there's nothing special about Call of Duty. This is pretty much reiterating like what Sony was trying to say is like, correct. It's so special ridiculous. That it stands upon its own and it's its own category. It's not even a shooter anymore. It's a fucking unicorn.
Like it's a Call of Duty. Call of Duty now. It's a Call of Duty.
Yeah.
No, it's not how this works.
So like, if you're the market leader in a category now for a long time, all of a sudden you're no longer part of that category. You have ascended above to be greater than all thy rest, and you are no longer part of the lowly pieces of shit below you. You now stand alone in your own category, and you cannot be sold to somebody else because you are truly special.
And you want to know how ridiculous? That's why Microsoft brings up the example of consoles. Like PlayStation has an extreme loyal fan base, but that doesn't make PlayStation or any other product its own genre of consoles.
That's right. It's contradictory, right?
Yeah, because again, if they want to take that route, then we can say PlayStation is in its own category of console. Yeah, you can say and they're not competing with Xbox.
You can
anymore.
say the Switch isn't competing with them either, right? You can say that everything. You're right. Like,
so there we go. So there's no competition. So hey, Microsoft can do whatever the hell they please, and it doesn't affect you guys because you're your own thing, right? So that's how stupid this gets. Anyways. It also lists 5 reasons arguing against Sony's claim that the addition of Activision Blizzard games to Game Pass would lead to an unattainable lead in subscription services for Microsoft. According to Microsoft, the claim is wrong because it's not part of Microsoft's strategy to remove content from players, and Call of Duty will still be on PlayStation as a paid title. Data shows that players see subscription services as only one way to pay for games. Sony's claim ignores the dynamic nature of subscription services and the fact that Sony has its own too. And then there was another point that was redacted for some reason. And then there are numerous other game distribution channels and subscription services, many of which include content that isn't available on Xbox. Microsoft also claims that arranging exclusivity deals has been at the heart of Sony's strategy to strengthen its position in the games industry. And that, as well as having its own first-party exclusives, it also has exclusivity deals with third-party publishers. It also alleges, we know it's real, that Sony actively tries to hamper Game Pass growth by paying some developers for blocking rights in return for them agreeing to not add their content to Game Pass. Finally, and perhaps the strongest indication yet that Call of Duty will remain multi-platform, Microsoft claims that not having Call of Duty games on PlayStation wouldn't make business sense because it would only be profitable if enough people jumped over to Xbox to make up for the money lost from not selling PlayStation copies. In its first response to Microsoft's proposed Activision Blizzard deal published in January, Sony said it expects Call of Duty to remain multi-platform due to contractual agreements, which we all heard. Microsoft came out. Microsoft's head of gaming also subsequently confirmed his intention to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation platforms once Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard is completed. However, it was later claimed that Activision Blizzard is contractually committed to releasing only the next 3 Call of Duty games for PlayStation consoles, including this year's Modern Warfare 2. End article. All right. Mav.
That was juicy.
This was juicy. It was to the point.
Yeah.
It confirmed stuff that we already knew. It confirmed speculation that we had on this exact show and many other places when we talked about this stuff as to what was going on. It validated many of our points that we brought up as to why Sony is not necessarily scared of losing Call of Duty, but they are certainly concerned. And it confirmed a lot of different aspects that we knew of or thought we knew of during this whole process so far. But this was nothing short of a complete and total smackdown of what Sony had to say. Now, of course, it's from Microsoft and Xbox's point of view. And if anybody wants the legal side of things, please go watch again. Hoag's Law. Hoag's Law does, Richard Hoag over there, great dude, great member of this community. He broke all this responses down legally from his point of view. as a mergers and acquisitions attorney. I've only listened to a part of it, so I'm not going to get into it, but please go listen to his stuff. Again, guy's been covering this and many other topics like none other. We get great insight into this from an actual legal mind. But just from a gamer standpoint, from a podcaster standpoint, sitting on the outside, just watching this kind of wrestling match back and forth, Mav, this was a SmackDown in the middle of the ring. This was Microsoft, Xbox coming in and going, hey, guess what? I call bullshit, Sony. I call bullshit on everything you had to say. And I'm going to lay out exactly why. What did you think, Mav? What did you take out of this? What are a couple of the points that you thought were clearly wins from Microsoft and Xbox in this kind of response that they had?
Well, it's almost like they just listened to all the shows that were calling out like Sony's shit BS and just like, these guys making good points. Let's just let's put this on our letter because you know what? It's true. Like I can't speak now either. The hypocrisy was just so evident last week when we talked about it, right? It was just like, what are they talking about? You know what I mean? You can't even though we expected it, because they're trying to do anything they possibly can, and they're sending this letters to people who don't really understand also the nature of the games industry, right? As well, probably they just understand business and they understand competition and stuff like that, and they're kind of overseeing industries as a whole, but not necessarily the history of everything that's gone down between exclusivity deals that Sony's made and the Tomb Raider deal that Xbox made and they got criticism for, and then they said they're not doing it anymore, and then Xbox shifting to Game Pass and Sony being reluctant to do so, Sony upping their game prices, right, with other people in the industry as well, and then Xbox is trying to say we want to lower the gate of access to gamers, not raise it, right? So there's been two different kind of mindsets out there, and you have these old hats a little bit. It kind of wanted to do things business the old traditional way and maybe move slower into this new era where Microsoft's going, we're full bore into the future, right? And it's pushing Sony way faster than they want to go. Way faster than they want to go. They're losing market share this generation for one reason or another, right? They see their golden child, which is not even their own game, their golden child that has helped excel them to a dominant lead this last generation, get scooped up out of their clutches and acquired by a company that has more money than they do. Therefore, they cannot compete with that deal whatsoever. It's they can't do it, right? So when they see somebody out there taking a deal that they were comfortable with, it was making them all this money, and it was great, a great relationship. Now all of a sudden Microsoft comes in and is like, we're sick of this shit. We're just going to buy Activision Blizzard because they're more obtainable than they've ever been. We're bringing Call of Duty here. We're still going to give you the game. Your guys are going to get to play it for 60, 70 bucks, whatever, 70 bucks probably, because that's what y'all say you want to pay for games. And then guess what? We're going to give it to our players in Game Pass. And then Sony's like, well, shit, we can't even put any of our own games in our service. Are you going to put the game that we had the marketing rights for so long now into your service? It's just going to make everybody that has been associated Call of Duty with PlayStation all of a sudden associated with Xbox. That's not fair, right? The asinine hypocrisy of that, when they were the ones that have been doing these deals in the first place for several years now, using that as the main strategy to not even have to develop those types of games on their own platform, is ridiculous. Guess what? That's why it's a genre in and of itself to Sony, because they don't have any fucking first-person shooter games that they make themselves, right? That's what they know. It's Call of Duty is a first-person shooter. That's what brings the players over here, so it's going to stand among its own. They gave up on first-person shooters when they couldn't figure out a way to make Killzone compete with Halo, or SOCOM kind of fell out, and then all of a sudden wasn't as good anymore. And then they got the marketing rights for COD, so that they're good there. You know what I mean? They got the exclusive rights for all these JRPG games. They're good with that. They're good with that audience, right? They're good with all these different things. They took a dominant lead. They start making even more and more deals because guess what? They got the player base at that point. Xbox was down. They thought they had them on the ropes, probably. They thought they were like, okay, we don't even have to worry about them anymore. And guess what? Xbox came roaring back full force, more than they ever could have anticipated. with a renewed vision, and not only getting more competitive with PlayStation, but changing the industry while they're doing it, right? Way faster than anybody anticipated, accelerated also by COVID, into what we talked about earlier, this cloud gaming, streaming, service-based future, right? That we all know is part of gaming, is going to be a part of gaming in the future, right? They weren't prepared yet. They wanted to sell their games for $70. They wanted to have this, high quality image, you know what I mean? And guess what? They're reeling a little bit right now because even those games are not selling as well as they anticipated, right? So they're having to weigh all these different decisions, and they come out and they make these stupid remarks because they're desperate now, in my opinion. They're desperate to make sure that they can try and keep COD no matter what, because that is their golden goose with the image and the name that it has to bring the casuals over to PlayStation. They freaked out so much that they went and bought Bungie just to make sure they didn't lose Destiny and whatever Bungie's next game is going to be. That's a panic moment, and to a lot of people, they say overpay. I don't know. Personally, I think Bungie's worth every penny. I think they're going to keep changing gaming and stuff. But yeah, you just see like these comments come out that we talked about last week, and then you all of a sudden you see Xbox, which I did not anticipate this at all, Pong. I thought we were just going to see like Xbox be normal, quiet Xbox, Microsoft just play the nice guy. But they were like, you know what? Screw this shit. I'm going to come out and I'm going to lay down all the asinine things that they just said and point out why it's ridiculous. Number one, Call of Duty is not a genre in and of itself. It's a first-person shooter. You guys would know that if you made them, right? Secondly,
wow. Okay. Yes.
Secondly, they've already said a couple times they are releasing it on PlayStation, right? As far as we know right now, Phil's usually not gone against his word. And I think that there's a lot of belief that that's going to be one of the concessions that the FTC and stuff is going to request, right? If that's the case, they've already said they're okay with it. They've even said that it makes more sense for them to remain multi-plat. So stop bitching about just losing the marketing rights on a game. It's just a freaking... I understand. It's a big deal to you. You need these marketing rights. You need this exclusive maps. You gotta have them to get those casuals over there. But shit, dude. Like, it's just marketing rights. Get the marketing rights for another big-ass game that's gonna come and take the world by storm in a few years from now. It's not the only game out there, right? It's fucking Call of Duty. It's gonna be great for Microsoft. Yes, it's gonna be in Game Pass. Got this whole Activision Blizzard thing going on. But geez, dude, it's like I've never seen like this side of Sony before with that. They really came at a position of like weakness, right? And Microsoft's coming at a position of strength. And it's making them look bad right now. I'm just being honest. Like, it makes Sony look like, oh, please don't take my thing. This is not fair. Judge, can we have somebody step in and correct this, because they have too much money. It's not fair. It's just ridiculous. I mean, they've done so many exclusive deals and the stuff behind the scenes. Speaking of the leaked Capcom contract that people said was probably fake. Well, bullshit. That thing was real, right? That Capcom contract between Capcom and Sony was real as all get out. And we saw the language in there and it was all like, what? Just for marketing rights, they're making them like not be able to release a game in Game Pass for how long? Like, it was like over a year, a year, and then like a couple of months. They have like an option period to like meet the price if they have their own subscription service or whatever. Man, it was pretty crazy to see the language in that thing, and then to see Microsoft allege that they're doing that. It's happening. It's absolutely happening.
They know it's happening because they try to cut deals for Game Pass. And what do you think? The publishers just go, well, we'd love to, but we just can't. And then Microsoft goes, why? And they're like, well, we just can't. No, they're telling them flat out. They know this shit's going on. Plus, they bought now ZeniMax, so they know the internal dealings. They've seen the contracts. They know what Sony was trying to do with Starfield. We know that for a fact, Mav. So, they know this. This is no legend.
Sony figured they could just make one genre of game and then gatekeep the rest. That's pretty much what they did last generation. right? I mean, they made one genre of game that they do really well, and they've gate kept the marketing rights and exclusivity deals on other high profile games, and it succeeded really well for them, right? It's not working this time around, right? It's not going to work. It's not going to work when Microsoft's fully invested and they are actually acquiring these studios to, guess what, give that variety of genres all across the board, like we were just talking about, not even from their own studios, but also other deals that they're making, bringing games into Game Pass and stuff. And those other publishers you spoke of, Pong, they were all like, yeah, we don't really see any problem with this. You know, like it just is what it is. They're just another competitor. More publishers will rise up. People say like, oh, you're gonna take one of the biggest publishers in the world out of gaming. Think about like 3 years ago. Who ever heard of Embracer Group, right? Who ever heard of them, right? There's so many of those publishers out there.
Jack Tretton.
Yes,
guy
himself.
Well known.
Yes.
He came out in an interview that we talked about last year. I think it was right before the end of the year, and he did an interview, and he said the exact same thing, man. He said, or no, it was the beginning of this year because it was after the acquisition was announced. He said the Activision Blizzard deals are actually good for this industry because what it does is it creates space for more people. And he said it will take multiple new people and companies to fill that hole, but one of them could become the next Activision Blizzard. And that's to your point, Matt. Who had heard of Embracer Group? Nobody. Guess what? They are now becoming one of the most powerful publishers on the face of this planet in this industry out of the blue. That's what happened. And Jack Tretton, yeah, he's been around for a while and knows a few things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And when he made those comments, I was like, yeah, this is smart. I mean, there's other people too have made comments about this from other studios that are like making startups. There's other high up executives that are being consultants right now and things like that. And they've been in interviews and things like this. And they're saying like, you know, like that's not a bad thing for the industry. Meanwhile, you have journalists that are like weirdly like have agendas and stuff come out and cry like the day that it was announced. You have Sony panic immediately. And even didn't they issue like a statement right after we expect Call of Duty is going to be on PlayStation still? You know what I mean? Yeah. And then Phil called him, hey guys, it's gonna be okay. You know, you're not gonna have the marketing rights anymore, but you know what? We're gonna own it. You're still gonna get it. So your players are gonna still have it, but we're gonna put it in Game Pass. Ain't nothing you can do about it.
And he said, not only that, Mav. By the way, we want to expand Call of Duty's reach. We want to put it on Switch. Yeah. We want to put it on Nintendo, by the way.
Oh, and also if you own it, guess what? You're going to be able to probably play that damn thing on the cloud. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, it'll be in Game Pass anyway by that point. But, you know, it's just, I don't know, man. I was really like happy to see Xbox's response because they absolutely nailed that on every single point. And I think the points that Sony tried to make when they were trying to make their case for this, for most of the gaming audience, just came across as like really weird and weak and hypocritical and stuff. And like Microsoft had to make sure that it wasn't an idiot reading this and was like going to side with Sony. So they had to go out there and bring the knowledge and bring the information and the correct information that also I think would be correlated by most of the other publishers as well out there that there's really don't have any legs to stand on with their arguments here. Do they have more money than Sony? Yes. Could Sony have made the same deal? No. Right? And that's really what I think is bugging them the most. You know what I mean? It's like we're competing in this market against a tech giant that we don't have any ways of fighting against now because guess what? They got Daddy's wallet. And Daddy is spending the money to make sure that the Xbox is going to be successful because the cloud and the infrastructure is crazy important to Microsoft, right? And they see the subscription services, they see this new way of gaming, they see this new age coming, and they are at the forefront of it, way ahead of the game than anybody else. And Sony is panicking that they do not want to lead their business that fast. Now, Jim Ryan sees that, I think, right? But he's trying to move a ship that is stubborn as hell, that is not willing to move or budge into that right now. And they have this weird, have a subscription service because we got to. Not even going to put our own damn games in it. They wouldn't have had, one argument you could also make too is like, would Call of Duty been in their service? No. Ain't no way in hell. So it's just like they just need to like step aside, be like, okay, guys, you're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that stupid stuff. I apologize. I wrote this letter out of panic and fear, and I was crying at the dinner table thinking about no more marketing rights. And then, you know what? Like, it's just not fair. But like, it is okay. It's okay. That's just what they need to do. That's not going to happen.
That's terrible business.
Yeah, I know. They already came across weak as fuck. At least they could just be blunt about it.
But the perception of the community doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. This is all behind the scenes. It's all stuff,
business,
again, that we have access to because of the Brazilian rules, right? Otherwise, we'd never see this stuff. That's why we haven't seen the stuff that, they probably wrote letters to the DOJ and the FTC. They probably did this everywhere, the EU.
Yeah.
We just didn't get to see it.
Do you think Jason Schreier assisted them with the writing? No? Okay.
I don't think they would even pay him. I don't. Listen. Let's get down to brass tacks here with this. First of all, this is straight up business. That's why I didn't have a problem with it from the beginning. That's why, again, yes, I understand why people say, hey, Sony's scared, Sony's showing weakness, all this kind of stuff. The facts are the facts. As far as a business standpoint, they're in the position of being behind because of their complacency. Okay, this is what it gets you. When you're complacent because you are number one in an industry, or quote unquote, argument wise, however you want to hash it, Nintendo is obviously the dominant force. We all know this, but I'm saying between the two power players on the cutting edge of this industry when it comes to tech outside of PC, when it comes to home consoles, Sony is arguably the king of kings. They created that kingdom by doing it a certain way. They got complacent because they got used to being the big bullies in the room. That's why nobody's wrong for pointing out that they've been doing this for a very long time. They created the rules of how this game was going to be played, man. And Microsoft, for a very long time, played underneath those same rules. And my point that I've made on so many shows going a long time ago when we started talking about this stuff, Mav, and we were talking about this when the Capcom leaks happened back last April, and everybody else was trying to dismiss it as bullshit. And we all said, what are you guys crazy? You don't think Sony isn't legit doing this? Of course they're legit writing this in. Of course they want to keep games off Game Pass, because the minute a game shows up in Game Pass, it's associated with Xbox, even if Sony has the marketing rights. It takes away some of that power from those marketing rights. But they've been used to making the rules that this game is played under. And now that Microsoft has decided, look, we're not playing your rules anymore. We're creating a whole new game over here. And guess what? We're not just inviting 120, 150 million people to our stadium. We're going to start inviting 2 billion, 3 billion people to our stadium. Once that happened and Sony lost control of the game, and because they got complacent and didn't prepare for this inevitability that somebody was going to find out a different way. And look, Sony wasn't ignorant. They created PS Now and invested in buying Gaikai long before Game Pass was ever announced. They knew that this was a potential, but they just decided, nah, we're okay. They were a lot like Blockbuster and Netflix. I saw somebody in the chat point that out. It's a perfect analogy. Blockbuster thought they were so big, they turned down an offer to buy Netflix because they were like, that's not going anywhere. We don't stream. Who's going to stream movies? Hell, we barely can get pictures across the internet. Why the hell would people want to start streaming movies?
Yeah.
And now look at them. That's what happens when you think you're so big that you can't fail, or you think that you are so far ahead that nobody's going to catch up to you. And you don't think about the future per se, or if you do, you ignore it because you just think the game's going to keep being played your way. Well, guess what? Xbox said no. And they say that directly in here, Mav. Their responses are, Sony does not want to compete with a new ecosystem.
Yep.
A new business, a new what am I trying to say? A new business model. They don't want to compete with a new business model that threatens their old model. And that's all this is at the end of the day. And like you said, I've given more credit to Jim Ryan than most people do. Even on the Sony side, there's a lot of people who absolutely despise Jim Ryan, what they think he's doing to PlayStation. Now, again, Jim is not a gamer, so I don't respect him from that standpoint. I know he could care less about gamers. To him, it's just numbers. And that's okay. Again, you can run a company that way. That's fine. He was highly successful, and that's why he's in the position he's in. But I do believe that he did see the future. But the problem being is it's not Jim reporting directly to one person like Phil to Satya, and all Phil has to do is convince Satya. Satya goes to the board and makes everything sound like gold. And so the board goes, yeah, well, Satya's on board. We're on board. That's great. Now, Jim's got to go convince a whole board of older Sony, mostly men. Yes, there's a few women there, but older Sony men who are set in their ways and are stubborn and didn't want to see that their way that had created this kingdom, that had made them highly successful, could be under threat from something like a Game Pass, like xCloud, like streaming. They didn't want to see that. So Jim's been fighting against this tide to turn this ship the entire time. And he slowly but surely started to convince them. It's obvious, but he's biding more time here is all he's doing. That's all he's doing with these nonsense comments. But Microsoft came in. And that's why I say this is straight business. And I expected Sony to say stuff like this. Because if you're fighting tooth and nail to keep your status, of course you're going to throw haymakers. Of course you're going to throw BS punches, right? Just to try to
swinging at it. They're swinging at air,
right?
You know,
they're swinging at air, right? But they're going to still try. That's a fighter. You know, you're giving yourself a fighter's chance just by throwing stuff out there. If you know you're losing the match, you're going to start swinging, just hoping for the knockout. And that's all they're trying to do here. But that's why I do love this, Mav. That's why I said from the beginning, I love that Sony did this. That's why I wanted God of War to come out on 11/11/22. I want the petty Sony to be around, because you know why? It lights these types of fires in Xbox. We hear, again, if I was Phil, because this is business and because I know how Sony does things and how they've been doing things for decades, if I was Phil, I'd be cutthroat. I've said that nonstop. I don't like all of Phil's necessarily kumbaya. I appreciate Phil and I give him the highest respect for everything he has done. But I say, if I was in his position, I'd be straight up cutthroat. And this is why. And that's why I love Sony reminding them of who they are. And this response map, this is exactly what I expected out of Xbox. This lit a fire underneath Xbox, because now, like I said, if Sony's timed exclusivity deals were being reviewed, Xbox was given the opportunity to speak their mind, they would speak their mind about those timed exclusivity deals. So what's going to happen here? Sony puts out this BS, throws out some wild swings with some nonsense. I knew Xbox was going to come back, given the opportunity, and lay it down. And they did. They pointed out the fact that Sony's own business model deals in exclusivity. That hasn't
affect
been a
console
problem.
Choice for sure.
Yeah,
right.
Yes, and it affects console choice. That's how they've built their console up. So they have zero issue doing it. They pointed out the fact that, again, this is just a new business model that Sony doesn't want to have to compete with. They also pointed out the fact that Sony has now started their own subscription service. So they're not immune to this. They understand what's happening. And yes, in fact, they had their own subscription service prior to Game Pass. They just chose not to build it up. They chose to let it wither and die on the vine in PS Now. And sure, Sony may not want to do day and date, may not want to compete on that level of buying exclusivity for their subscription service. But that's all this is. It's just the desire to not play the same game now Microsoft and Xbox is playing. That's all this is at the end of the day. And that's what Xbox said in all these points, is this is all just PlayStation saying, hey, we don't like what you guys are doing because we don't want to play that way, because we've been successful doing it our way. So we don't want you doing this new way. That's all they did. So for me, this was the perfect perfect response. This is in line with everything. And again, it's not unexpected for me from either side. I expected this kind of wrestling match behind the scenes the whole entire time, because again, if I was in Sony's position and I was behind somebody trailblazing like Xbox is, that seemingly is just gaining momentum and opening up new opportunities for the ecosystem to continue to grow, and they have now a $2 trillion corporation behind them. They have Azure servers right there within their own house. They have all of the infrastructure built, and we are sitting back going, ooh, geez, yeah, we can't do that. Or if we're going to do that, it's going to take us a while to get there. Well, guess what? It's going to be a high risk proposition for PlayStation at the end of the day. They're going to have to pour resources into it. So I expected this to happen because PlayStation just wants to delay the inevitable for as long as possible.
Yeah.
But the fact that they got reminded, the fact that they threw some wild swings at Xbox and whiffed, but at the same time kind of woke Xbox up a little bit here, and Xbox had to come back with this type of response. That's what I love.
Who wrote that response from Xbox? Because he needs a raise.
I don't know. I don't know. Tim Dog was giving credit to the attorney. What's his name? The guy we just heard about during this acquisition. That's kind of
Brad Smith.
Brad Smith. Yeah, thank you. Tim Dog gave credit to him. I'm sure it came from the legal team. All this stuff, even on Sony's side, comes from the legal team. Yes, they obviously talk to, the higher ups and say, hey, what kind of responses do we have, or what are we putting out there? But at the end of the day, it's legal teams writing this. But so Tim gave it probably correct, congratulatory to Brad Smith for this kind of writing. But this is what I love.
That was just very well put. It's like everything you've been saying and all these things
we've been saying.
Yeah,
that's what's so freaking fantastic. Now they did it in a little bit different ways, but it's pretty much everything
more
out.
Intelligently.
Yeah,
more businessy,
not from a gamer standpoint, right, per se. But again, it's all business. That's why I always say the people who say, "Oh, if you're not in it, you shouldn't be talking about it. You don't know what you're talking about. You aren't your CEO."
We keep being right about more and more things, man. They're like, what people keep coming out and saying lately? It's like Square Enix is who we thought they were. Sony is who we thought they were. Microsoft is who we thought they were. It's crazy.
Yeah, we don't know everything, and no, we don't get paid 7, 8, 9 figures to do this kind of stuff on a daily basis. We don't run these type of corporations, but there's some general basic stuff that if you just take a look at the whole, you can understand, even if you're not in it, you can understand what's kind of happening here. But no, overall, man, this was great response, perfect response. Loved every aspect of it. I thought they did a great job just shooting down everything that Sony was putting up. And again, it's all known stuff. And again, as far as finally everybody realizing that the Capcom leak was real, again, I don't understand how professional journalists just dismiss things as, oh, it's probably fake, and never dive deeper or dig into it or ask developers about this stuff behind the scenes and create news. And then when something like this happens, they come out all acting surprised in their articles like, oh,
what happened?
Making some big allegations here. What? Do you guys not know who Sony is?
We all read all. There's still, you can probably still find those on the internet. But they haven't gotten most of them removed, anyways.
Right, exactly. But really, this draws the lines, Matt, for the future battles here. And this is what's coming down the road here, because Sony's not dying. Sony's not going anywhere. That's not happening. Again, because they put themselves in this terrible position by decisions they made prior, and they could not have seen, just like Xbox couldn't have seen, or Nintendo couldn't have seen the pandy coming, couldn't see the recession coming. None of that could have been prepared for. But because they didn't do anything, and because Xbox did all the work they did, and because Nintendo decided to go to the handheld market with the Switch, Xbox and Nintendo put themselves in perfect position to capitalize on the situations that happened. Whereas Sony, with the chip shortages and all this stuff that was out of their control, they don't have a secondary console like the S that is cheaper. They've put themselves in a real bad position, and they know it now. Again, Jim Ryan's not dumb.
Yep.
He knows it. $70 games right now don't look so damn good.
Yeah.
To people who are tightening their budgets.
And I mean, that's why they're not selling as well either. You know what I mean? It's correct. Like, it's not just the Sony games. It's like it's third party games that are at 70 aren't selling as well either. I think Skull and Bones is going to flop horribly, probably because of that.
Probably because of that. But again, it's a Ubisoft game, so like I said, it'll be 50% off by Black Friday.
That's true. It'll have a good chance on the the aftermarket there.
Yeah.
But
this draws the battle. Let me just finish this point here that I was starting, and then I got sidetracked as always. This really draws the battle lines here, Mav. Going forward, when Sony does jump into this arena more and more, and we've seen it, they're starting to pull out some of those third-party deals that we talked about was going to happen with the service when everybody was going, oh, it's just going to be PS Now. And then we all said, no, just wait. Third-party deals are coming. They are starting to lean into that. But as they do that more and more, this is where the battle lines now are going to be. Again, Sony doesn't want it to be that way. They want to be able to buy their timed exclusivity, but now it's going to come down to subscription exclusivity. Now it's going to come down to cloud exclusivity, streaming exclusivity,
and IPs.
That's where the battle lines are. That's where the battle lines are. And because they know they're not the market leader in those categories, Xbox is, they know they're going to have a hard time, or they are going to be like Microsoft last generation and have to overpay to get those sweetheart deals that they were used to, right? They're not going to get those anymore because the market leader is now on the other side. And that's what they're afraid of. They're not going to be able to get over there and get those deals like they used to.
And it's still funny as hell, like seeing the market leader come out and make a statement saying like, it's not fair. You know what I mean? It's like just so ridiculous and stuff. But like, you made a lot of good points too. We're seeing like PlayStation look more and more like Xbox. With the way they're switching their business models, they finally got their first person shooter developer with Bungie. They're gonna make their next game Halo.
Why isn't Destiny already in PlayStation Plus?
I don't know, man.
Not already in there, man.
I don't know.
See, those are the decisions that I look at Sony and go, okay, you guys know what's coming. You guys obviously did that as a response. You overpaid for Bungie. Why aren't you using that to your advantage? Put that in PlayStation Plus. Start getting Destiny players, which is a giant fan base.
They would still. Dude, why isn't GT7 in there? Right? Why isn't months after release? You could start putting these games in there. But Bungie was a big deal. Like they're like I said, their next game Halo will be very, very big for them. I think it's going to be like this first big live service game. I'm nicknaming it Halo just because like it's the pay station and everything, I don't know what's how big of a transition like Sony is going to be, like how fast they can pull this off, right? Because like they said they have 10 live service games in the works, right? We've seen, we know Factions is probably one of them. Right. We know that Bungie has a new game coming and that may be one of them. Some rumors are saying that it's a single player game, but we'll see. I don't think so. Now, why would Bungie like use all that expertise they have with what they're doing and then not break it in on another live service model? Right.
Jade Raymond Studio.
Raymond Studio is going to be another one.
Haven is one.
They're doing several different things that look a lot more like the models that a lot of their fan base has been like, that sucks. Like, we don't like that. We don't want that. That's what PlayStation's better because we only do these kind of games. Like, and it's just like, I understand like a PlayStation has like, does stand for quality, right? I will 100% say that they make some of the most well-made, great games out there. Right.
I've seen a dip too.
Yeah, I know. But that's not necessarily proven to be sustainable in this for the long haul, because it has not really grown into what I think people had thought it was going to be going into this generation. Whereas last gen, they just killed it. Right. They just killed it. Release after release after release after release. Like great game after game.
They controlled their segment completely.
They had a couple of slips, but then this next wave of games has not really hit the same way that those did. Right. Horizon Forbidden West didn't really land like a lot of people thought. GT7 didn't. You know what I mean? Like. Even though I like GT7, right? You have Returnal was kind of like niche, right? It's not for
it did pretty well for what it was, but yeah,
yes, it's not like
a big
a
seller.
God
of
of War.
Gonna be a 10 million seller.
Man, they have so much writing on God of War right now.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And I mean, this holiday is riding on it. They need to have the availability there. They got to have God of War Ragnarok, and they can really kind of surge this lead a little bit more because it's kind of close right now, but in the US. But they can gain a little bit market share back, this holiday season, especially with Xbox not having any of their big first party titles there. But it's going to be harder and harder for them unless they start playing toe to toe, right? And this is all about them, like you said, Pong, too. Like, they just don't want to. They didn't want us to have to step into it this fast. They wanted to keep what they had going for a while. Now, the people are like, oh, well, you mean they're not going to make those games anymore? Like God of War? No, they're still going to. Sure. But they can't just only do that, right? Correct. They can't only just do that and only sell games for a box and expect people to go out and buy a $500 box and then enough people to buy $70 games to sustain growth, right? It's not just about keeping a player base. I think you can keep your player base. It's about sustaining a certain level of growth. And Jim Ryan said himself, they are capped.
Yep.
They are capped at what they believe the console market is, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
They're only, I agree that you're not gonna have 1 billion people buy a $500 box to play video games on. Right, you're gonna some of the best generations have ever been like 100. What was it? They did like 150 mil last time, right? Like,
yep.
They have to get beyond that. Xbox just was ahead of the ball game there, right? Maybe they had the wallet, maybe they had the tech behind it, but they can't.
Had the vision. They had the vision. They had to change what they were doing because they finally realized, Phil, when Xbox was on the ropes. Again, that argument is not, just go watch the documentary, watch Aaron Greenberg's face as he talks about the dark. Xbox was on the ropes. When they were on the ropes, they had to reinvent themselves. And Phil and his team had the vision to say that this was the future. And then he had the vision to sell it to Satya under the pretense that it would all work back towards Azure servers, one of the pillars of their corporate. Again, that vision was out of necessity. They were forced to have that vision because otherwise Xbox wasn't going to be here anymore. And that's kind of what happens when desperate times come around. Sometimes you do your best work. That's what Phil and his team did, their best work. And again, with Sony, they just could be complacent. They thought they just had it all in the bag. It was in the bag. It was going to be in the bag next generation.
This happens all the time. All these generation swings, man. It happened back in the 360 PS3 era. Yep. The PlayStation came back strong, towards the end, right? When they started getting those games in. People forget the beginning of that generation, the PS3 exclusives weren't very good. I mean, the 360
had the processor sucked.
The 360 exclusives were where it was at. Now, later in the generation, like PS3 stepped it up, 360 started struggling. And then all of a sudden you see the shift, and then you saw the whole Xbox One, PS4 thing, and people just acted like Xbox is dead. They're never going to come back from this, right? There's no way possible. PlayStation's got it too much in the bag, and they know what the players want. They're delivering what the players want, and nothing else matters. Well, guess what? There was a lot of people still playing on Xbox that were completely happy, including me, right? And guess what? Now you had that money, like you said, fully invested again now into figuring out a new way. And Sony's like, well, shit, we got to do that to compete. Because we talked about this like a long time ago, Pong. Eventually, the writing would be on the wall. The value, no matter overall, trumps everything, right? Value and money always wins, right? Now, you can't just release this piece of shit little thing and expect it to do well, but you have a quality ecosystem, you have a quality service, you have the best services actually in gaming, period. You have some of the best franchises out there, and you're making big investments back into it all, right? And you're providing undeniably, without question, the best value for the dollar for the consumer, right?
Correct.
And that will win. And because of Xbox's like willing to spend right now, and they're willing to be in this acquisition phase and get all these different companies and all these projects started. We remember when we listed all those damn games that were in the projects. Now we know about like what 3 PS5 games in development right now, past what God of War like that are exclusives, right? Maybe. So we got Wolverine.
Yep.
We know about God of War Ragnarok.
Yep.
Help me out here, people in the chat. What else is on the PlayStation slate?
Well, I mean, we know of, Haven's project.
Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man
2, correct. Yep.
Okay. Well, shit.
Yep, we know Corey's team is working on a different type game. But we don't know anything. Again, we don't have like specifics of anything. It's supposedly going to be high fantasy or sci-fi. It's supposed to be sci-fi. I think his team is sci-fi. But we know of some of their, Haven's first party now, so we count them. Haven's project. But yeah, we don't know a whole lot. We know of factions. We know Ghost of Tsushima team is working on something. Obviously, probably Ghost of Tsushima 2. That's beyond.
Yeah.
And again, as everybody points out, and everybody in the chat, you guys have been on fire tonight, by the way.
Yeah,
and
amazing chat.
Glad this conversation is flowing tonight with you. But you're all right. Again, Sony just thought that they had figured out the magic, and that the single player, over the shoulder, third person, narrative driven game was the be all end all, and that they could pump out game after game of that and sell 10 to 20 million copies every single time out. And they thought that that's all they had to focus on with a Gran Turismo sprinkled in there, because polyphony takes 8 years to develop a game with that type of game sprinkled in there. But then their bread and butter was your Call of Duties. And that's why they put so much investment into the marketing rights for a Call of Duty, because that's where they were driving their other streams of income from. So they themselves, they kneecapped themselves is what they did.
Yeah.
Gerald Mack, you're absolutely correct. They're no longer agile because of what they did to their own studios, because they killed off the kill zones, because they let the SOCOMs die, because they let the Twisted Metals go. They became a one-dimensional company from their first party. And those one and done games, while great, and when they sell like crazy, and you get your Spider-Mans and you get your Last of Us.
Some of the best games.
Some of the best games, and they'll sell you 10 to 20 million copies. But when that game's done, it's done. There's no other stream of income coming in. And that's where they kneecap themselves. And that's what happened to Sony, because they got too high on the throne. And like Mav said, we have seen this through history of video games, especially those of us that have been around for long enough to go through all these generations. It happens time and time again. You don't understand why, because you can look at it and go, what are you doing? Again, when the Sony announced the PS3, everybody was like, what are you doing? And then we found out about the cell processor, and everybody was like, so wait, you made the most expensive console on the market and
$600.
You made it hard for the devs to develop for it?
Yeah.
We've seen this before. We saw that with the Sega Saturn. Sega was on top of their game. They come out with the Saturn and create this dual processor, this dual GPU with a split motherboard. The developers were like, what are we supposed to do with this thing? Like, nobody had developed like that type of technology. Like, PCs were just starting to get that, but it burned up and burned out because developers couldn't do anything with it. It was nonsensical.
Think about to everybody in the chat, think about your wallet and think about what $500 means to you right now. That's the cost of a top of the line next generation console right now, right?
Yep.
That is a lot of money. Okay. Think back 16 years ago. 16 years ago, they tried to release a console at $600.
And good old Kaz came out and said, just get a second job. When somebody asks them about the price, oh, we think our customers will get a second job to buy it. Donnie D was not the first with a bad way of saying things. Okay. That was awful. That was the most ridiculous thing ever to happen. And Xbox capitalized. And then when Xbox One floundered, PlayStation capitalized. That's how this has always worked throughout this industry. We saw even Nintendo make a mistake in the Wii U, which is a rare mistake for them. But they made a mistake in the Wii U, and to some degree the GameCube too. The GameCube didn't do as well as they thought it would at one point either. We've seen this time and time again when companies get full of themselves and they think they can do no wrong, or they think they figured it out. This industry changes on a dime. Now, again, that's why Sony's other argument that Call of Duty stands by itself and nobody's ever going to be able to create another Call of Duty. We can get new games that come out of nowhere like Fortnite, PUBG, that totally change the industry, Apex Legends, that reiterate and make fans, new fans, out of something that nobody had thought of before. The next Call of Duty killer could just be right around the corner next year. We could be talking about in 2 years some new game that has overtaken Call of Duty, and we all look back and say, man, I wonder if Microsoft really should have spent $70 billion in Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, who knows?
Right? We could be second guessing, right? That's how quick this industry changes. And if you don't have vision, and sometimes forced vision, like we've talked about with Xbox, that's what can happen to you. If you don't have the foresight, if you don't have the right people in place that can look ahead and make decisions, right decisions, that's exactly what can happen. And that's what we're seeing with Sony. What if Sony had continued to cultivate Killzone? What if Sony had continued to cultivate SOCOM? One of the best third-person shooter games ever to come out was SOCOM.
Siphon Filter.
And MotorStorm. They could have had their
MotorStorm
own
was
Horizon.
so good.
They could have had their own Forza Horizon. But no, they let all those franchises die off.
They a lot of closures of studios too. Also back then.
Lots of closures of studios. And that's the problem, right? So Sony made themselves one-dimensional and they put themselves in this position. Now the industry is changing yet again. It's changing yet again. And yes, they will survive. Like I said, I've always said, worst case scenario, Sony becomes the next Nintendo. Now they would have to make some changes to their business model because Nintendo, again, makes money on everything. But Sony would have to change that business model. They might not be able to do the highest tech levels anymore, but that's worst case scenario. But because the industry is changing, because Xbox decided to change the entire game and show a new way of doing things, which opens up to 2 billion, 3 billion people. And because they have the infrastructure, because they have the money to do it, and the
technology.
And the tech.
This is like,
when I say infrastructure. Yes.
Overall, like this is as much about technology changing the industry as it is Microsoft too, right? Because like somebody is going to be first to really do this, right? Microsoft had the vision that they knew that they needed to get out in front of it, and they did, right? Everybody else is kind of waiting for the technology to catch up, and like eventually they'll just kind of slowly transition and stuff like that. But like Microsoft like went full force into it, but it's because the tech is there now to start doing that. And just like technology changed the music industry, technology changed the movie industry, technology changed all this stuff with streaming, right? The last hurdle in big entertainment was gaming, right? To be able to do that. And it's also the biggest market in entertainment. And there's going to be so much money made off of this where the ecosystems are going to be widely more accessible to more people than ever before because of technology. And Sony is reluctant because they just know that the way they've been doing it was so successful for them for so long, relying on the box, right? And they were forced almost to do the subscription service to have something to compete with now, because they said they were working on their answer to Game Pass. Now they need to take that next step, right? Because it's going to be a slow process for them. They don't need to compete 1-for-1 overnight, right? But if they don't start like really getting the ball rolling and make some more deals and start really get some traction with this thing, if Xbox releases this avalanche of games in 2023 and it doesn't stop and they haven't caught up, and that's why I brought up their pipeline for Sony. We know maybe like 2 or 3 games. I'm sure they have more to announce soon, right? But even just when we look at like what Xbox has like on the slate, I put it up on the screen a little while ago. There's a shit ton that we already know names for, right? Like there's Perfect Dark, there's Avowed, there's Contraband, there's
Starfield,
Redfall, the State of Decay 3, Forza Motorsport, Fable, Project Dragon, Outer Worlds 2, Elder Scrolls 6. Then if they Indiana Jones, if they get this Activision Blizzard deal, then you're adding like all the Call of Duties coming up every year for a while. You got the Diablo 4, and I mean, you talk about game recognition, right? Talk about game recognition and brand recognition,
even if they're not exclusive.
Even if they're not exclusive,
associated with Xbox permanently.
It is going to drive so many people to the ecosystem because guess what? Even Xbox says this. Guess what sells people on a brand is the games and gaming right now. They've admitted to that. Their failings in the past. They know that it's the games. And if Sony doesn't have this thing figured out a little bit, and this avalanche of all these damn games that we just announced, that I just told you these names for, and they just start hitting like every couple of months, right? And then you're gonna get access to the games you own on everything. You get a Game Pass on everything. You got like an app on your damn TV, on your iPad, and your fucking fridge, and your Jeep Grand Cherokee in the passenger seat. Did you see that?
Yes,
I mean, there was like, your phone, your PC, Steam Deck, more handheld gaming devices being announced. Also, there was Tencent and Logitech are partnering up to make one that's going to have streaming capabilities and stuff like that. It's like the more and more like this opens up to the mass audience, and more people are willing to try cloud gaming and not be reliant on a $500 box, even though Xbox even has a $300 option, maybe even cheaper by then. Once that avalanche hits, again, you're going to get all that shit for $15 a month, or for your whole family for $25. I'm sorry, but if I was Sony right now, I'd be shaking in my damn boots. Not that you can't sustain and be a relevant business, but you're going to see the competition that was you had here just freaking go like this. You know, we're not there yet. We're not there yet right now. Obviously, we've not got no damn first party games even releasing this year. So it's got to happen. We got to actually see this happen. But this stuff is going on. This stuff is happening behind the scenes. These games are in active development, even though they keep getting freaking delayed, keep getting pushed back. We don't see enough of them and all this kind of stuff. Once this pipeline drops at that value, it is going to be unquestionably the best thing we've ever seen in gaming before, in my opinion, especially with the level of access that you even need to enjoy those games. You don't even need a damn box. You don't even have to have $500. You don't have to have $300. You got to have a TV with an app in it. You got to have a cell phone. You got to have an iPad. You got to have a PC or something, a laptop, shitty laptop. You can get used, $150 somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's absolutely, Xbox has that vision and they've seen that, right? They know what they need to do, and it's going to be crazy. Me and Pong talked about this a lot. Then you add in there all the compatibility with all the past games and everything. It's just more and more and more adds value. You can't rely purely on the fact of premium, as your main selling point, because guess what? There's a lot of premium products that are great and have badass names and are amazing, but they don't sell as much as the things that have more of the mass appeal.
Why do you see a McDonald's on every corner?
Exactly.
And you don't see a steakhouse on every corner.
Exactly, bro. And not to say that Xbox is McDonald's and then PlayStation's a steakhouses, but that's
it's value.
It's value, right? And imagine McDonald's is giving you the same damn things that the steakhouse is giving you.
Right. For a cheaper price. Right?
For a cheaper price.
Right.
Imagine you could go to McDonald's and get like a steak every damn day for $15 for a month for the rest of your life, or you can go down to this local steakhouse and pay $70 per meal.
Right.
I mean, exactly. I'm just saying, if the steak is just as good, you know what I mean? It speaks for itself.
And I think that from Sony's perspective, Matt, again, even if they fall behind, I think the perfect example for them to look towards is how big a lead Netflix had. But Disney came late to the party. but because of the quality of their content, and what I'm talking about is the back catalog that Sony has of known IP, even stuff that they've let die off, right? Like your SOCONs, like your Motor Storms. If they can get the talent, if they can get the studios to start going back to that back catalog and bringing forward some of those known IP, they can certainly make their presence known. Now, Disney Plus went out and made some huge purchases like Fox and Hulu, but they just surpassed Netflix for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were late to the party. And I'm not saying that Sony could ever get to that point because, again, infrastructure wise, we're talking about way two different things here. But what I'm saying is if you want to look to an example, that's ones you can look to because Sony's back catalog is so damn impressive with IP that they could pull out anytime they need to, if they can have the developers that actually can make the games, which is another problem because, again, development talent is right now at a premium and it's hard to come by. But if they could go make some purchases and they make the right purchases and get some big teams together, they could instantly have a catalog of games that could compete in certain genres that they are currently missing. And I think that that's the example they should probably look towards. Shout out to DS Omen with a $5 super chat too, brings up something interesting as well. Do we think PSVR 2 will help or hurt Sony? I'm worried their vision might be split, but also it could help differentiate and get more users. Look, this is the one category. This is another category, I should say, where Sony is pushing forward,
yes,
and Microsoft has decided to abandon for the time being. Now, if Sony's vision is that VR eventually becomes the go-to, then their investment is well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, for me, again, until you can jack me in like the Matrix, I'm not interested in VR. And because the tech right now certainly has not caught up with VR, I don't know if that's too long range of a vision. If I was Sony, do I think that that money could be invested into infrastructure to help me with my gaming subscription and my, cloud services and that kind of stuff going forward versus VR? I'm happy they're in the VR space. I'm happy all the people are in VR space, because if that does wind up being the future, if I one day can have a full body VR experience because all these companies decided to invest heavily in it, I'm all for it. I'm all supportive of that. I'm not stupid enough to say just because I'm not interested in it now that it could not be the future. I think it possibly could be if we get to that point. Now, Microsoft has the, again, has the finances, has the infrastructure with HoloLens and all the stuff they've done behind the scenes, not commercially, but business-wise. Could they turn on a dime if VR all of a sudden becomes a thing? Do I think that they could have a VR headset out very quickly? Yeah, I do. I think Microsoft being behind them, they certainly could do that. And I think that's why they're
I think they would just release like an Xbox app on somebody else's VR headset.
That's certainly possible too, right? They might team up with somebody else.
Like,
right?
why do they gotta make their own if they can put their ecosystem on somebody else's?
On somebody else's.
Like, because Meta, I think, would let them do that.
Meta would, Valve would. I think Valve would be right there. I think with Gabe and in the relationship they developed there, we've talked about that too. I think that's the big buy down the road. But I think that's certainly, but I'm happy Sony's there. But do I think it could hurt them right now? Yeah, because all those resources being put into a very niche genre of gaming, which is VR, and making a premium, expensive VR headset, all those resources can help them catch up to Microsoft, or start to catch up to Microsoft in other areas. So I think it could hurt them in the short term. Now, long term, they might prove to be right. That's my opinion. Mav, you got any other different takes on it?
Yeah, on VR, I think that, it's like Pong said, it's awesome. I want somebody to be pushing it forward. It needs the user base to really like give their feedback and input and really shape what that industry is going to be. So you got to have some people that are in on it. And right now, like, I just only think it has so much potential to grow. That's not a knock against Sony. I'm glad they're doing it. And it's awesome for VR enthusiasts and stuff as well. I think they're gonna VR enthusiasts will either get a PC and a high-end VR headset, or they're gonna get a PS5 and a high-end VR headset, right? And I think that they're in that market. Realistically, though, that market's very small, right? It's not that you don't have like hundreds of millions of those flying off the shelves right now. And also the cost is really high. In fact, Meta just had to go up on their price of their headset, which they were the only one that was really at a more of a mass appeal type price point. Besides the VR phone ones, like the Galaxy VR that they had and stuff like that. I don't even know if they make those anymore. But they were at a price point that was like, oh, it's like $200-$300, something like that. It's like, okay, yeah, you can see a family trying it out, right? Yeah, I'll get one, try it. It's really cool VR. I've heard a lot about it, We got one for my daughter for Christmas. I wouldn't have bought her a $600 headset. I wouldn't have bought her a $500 headset. Now, the thing about Sony's is also to really take full advantage of what that headset is, you also got to have a PS5, right? So, you got to have a PS5, $500. Then you got to buy a headset, and it's probably going to be another $500, right? So, just the level of growth there is only going to depend on how many PS5s there are out there, and also how many VR enthusiasts there are that own PS5s or that want to buy both, right? So, it's just the market doesn't have a massive growth where it's not going to go into like 50, 40, 50, 60 million right now. Now over time, maybe that'll grow. But I think the cost needs to get a little bit down. I think the usability of them still needs to get a little bit better and all this kind of stuff. And they're doing the hard work there to do that. And I'm glad they are, because somebody needs to, in the console space also, right? So I think VR is definitely a big part of the future, but I don't think it's like the future like everybody is seeming like it's going to be. It's not, we're not going to only live this is not going to be Ready Player One, right? I don't foresee that, personally, where you're muted, Pong.
I was saying I see it in my lifetime, but I don't see it like in the near future.
Right. Maybe like 20, maybe like 40 years from now, but maybe potentially something like that.
Yeah. Once computing and everything else, quantum computing is going to change a lot. So once that becomes more viable, I think then that's when we started heading towards that area. But like Fuzzy said, in 3 to 5 years, as the costs come down, as the cost points come down, eventually it could become more mass appeal.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get all the hardware and you don't need separate to have a console, and you have everything built in, and you can pick it up off the shelf for $200-$300. Yeah, I think it could be more mass appeal because a lot of people do enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I think that the potential is there for
not this generation. I don't think it's gonna. This generation, I think it's gonna grow.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, the generation over generation, you're going to see a good growth, right? It's a newer technology. You're going to see a lot of growth, but I don't think it's going to get to the selling as much as like a video game console does.
No, adoption rates still, again, that will continue to grow, but we're not.
And then they got to have developers that make games for that as well. So that's a separate investment for that. And it kind of maybe that's one thing where Microsoft's actually come out and said this, they don't want to really take their developers away from making the games that they're making to force them into making VR stuff, because that didn't work for them in the past with the Kinect, right? Yeah. And personally, for me, I am glad that Microsoft isn't leading any first party major stuff there. Although they are still making first party games that are VR, like Skyrim's VR. They have other VR experiences out there in a lot of their games too. But they're not going out and making exclusively only a bunch of VR stuff, right? And promoting a product that's VR and things like that, because that would either require more investment in other studios and technology, or using what you existingly have to push that. And I would rather personally Xbox focus on what they're doing now.
Yeah.
And now when VR really takes off and it's a mass appeal and you have millions and millions of people that have headsets out there, hundreds of millions, then as much as people have PCs, right? You put your ecosystem on those headsets that are widely available that everybody has, and then you get access to all the Xbox VR stuff, play your Game Pass games on the big screen, right? Stuff like that. I can foresee a future with Microsoft there sooner than I could them doing their own headset personally. I just don't know why they would need to make it their own. But anyway.
No, I agree with you unless it's, commercially viable. I mean, again, there's a reason why you want your own branded stuff out there if you can do it. But again, Microsoft's forte is not hardware. It never has been. They've tried, And they tried a lot, and they continue to try, which I give them credit for. Again, I'm working off a Surface tablet right now. I love the Surface, like the Surface Pro. I love them. I think they're fantastic. But we've seen them with Windows phones. We've seen them so many times do this. But I think eventually, once it does become commercially viable, they will jump in one way or another. And Marlesco, the HoloLens, they lost the huge government contract with the military, which was a big one for them. And then the guy who was one of the main creators of the HoloLens is the guy that just left. I forget his name, left because of his bad behavior. Per se, so that's what put
he was the one that was like got caught with maybe watching some stuff on his HoloLens that he shouldn't have been, like at the office.
Yes, and he had some bad people skills when it came to the opposite sex as well. So that's put a damper on HoloLens, that loss of the government, but they are going to a more business they will continue in the business commercial sector, because the HoloLens has a lot of applications, just like we see the Kinect is still living on. The Kinect is out there in hospitals and all sorts of places that we aren't even aware of still to this day, because it does have other applications. And I think that's where HoloLens is staying.
It's so funny when you have like these places and you see the Xbox 360 on the Kinect, you know what I mean? Like,
it is. It's hilarious. Oh man, Mav, we knocked it out of the damn park here, bro. 3 hours almost. Woo.
Yeah.
Killed it.
We knew the last topic was going to be a little bit fiery.
Yeah, we knew.
Did you get to we had one more $10 super chat from Dark CMF.
Oh, I did not see Dark CMF. Sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you again, Dark. Appreciate you, man. He says,
man, appreciate you.
The best part of it all is that Sony started the whole thing by suggesting that they could replace the PC by putting a console in every living room, and Microsoft went further with streaming everywhere. That's a good point, man. That's why Microsoft get into that business, because they convinced Bill Gates that, PlayStation's trying to, take over the living room, and, that documentary, I recommend everybody watch it. It's great.
And the only reason why Sony is here is because Nintendo decided to snub their nose at them and break a deal to make a CD player for the Nintendo, make a console that was a CD based console. And Nintendo decided not to do that, canceled their contract with Sony, and Sony said, "F you, then we'll go make our own. We're going to jump into this game now."
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I got PlayStation.
It's crazy.
Crazy how that stuff happens, man. Really insane. All right, man. Let's get everybody out of here as we approach 9 o'clock. Chat, you guys were absolutely amazing tonight. Great comments in there. It's fantastic conversations. Again, these topics are really fun to get deep dive into, especially with other people who are as fascinated as we are about the business side of things and about this back and forth and about where the industry is going. Again, if you're just in it for the games, hey, that's cool too. We talk a lot of gaming talk, but we are going to deep dive some of the different topics that come up like this stuff. And we're going to give our opinion. Again, do we play armchair CEO? Yeah, we sure do. But it's part of the fun of it. It's just like fantasy football, like anything. You like to play armchair stuff, man. It's kind of cool just to kind of sit back and give your opinions and thoughts of where the industry's going and see what happens. But this was a great conversation tonight, Mav. We knew it was going to be a big one. We were in the DMs yesterday, a couple DMs that we had where this is going to be a fun one tomorrow night. And it certainly was, man. 3 hours gone in a flash with just nothing but pure talk. So thank you all for joining us tonight on PM in the PM episode 37. Again, August the 11th, 2022. And if you're listening to us in the future, we appreciate you just as much for joining in on this, because even as just a listener, as Mav had pointed out last week, I think it was, we were just so appreciative, whether you lurk the entire time, whether you listen to us for 5 seconds or listen to us for the entire 3 hours, it does not matter. You are a part of what we do here, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing so. So appreciate you all. But Mav, tell everybody what you got coming up starting tomorrow night with Xbox Ultimate, of course. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, dude, tomorrow night. That's right. Xbox Ultimate Podcast episode 101. We're going to take it to class. 101. I don't know. That's stupid. Yes, episode 101 is tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm curious what the rest of the panel's takes are going to be on some of these topics as well. Maybe we'll get some more news tomorrow too. Who knows? But we're going to have a blast. A lot of times that show goes left, goes sideways. And I feel like we had one of our best shows ever last week with our episode 100. it was just a blast
Fun.
from start to finish, man. Like
We
it
did
was a
great job
blast.
with the videos, and it was just, we were laughing the whole entire time. We did still cover some topics, but man, it was just great to kick back with the fam and talk about what happened there.
It was awesome.
Previously.
It's good to have a look back a little bit, you know what I mean, on the fun times we've had over the last couple of years. And you know what, tomorrow we're gonna have a lot of gaming talk tomorrow, I bet, on Xbox Ultimate though, and it's gonna be just as fun. Then coming back on Mondays for Fun Speculation Podcast at 10 p.m. Eastern time. It's a late show, and we got an awesome panel there with Psychonauts and 3-Bit, if he can make it this week, and Fuzzy, Jasper. We also look at the games coming ahead for the week on that show. And then Tuesdays, if I can make it there, I hope so this week. I really, really, really want to Xbox Factor podcast as well over at Double Barrel Gaming with Mr. Boomstick. But I guess where I will be tomorrow morning, I'll be hanging out with Boom on Double Barrel Gaming on breakfast with Boom. It'll be absolutely a great time there. So come check out Double Barrel Gaming tomorrow morning and see Noof Nukem will be guesting as well. So that it's going to be an absolute awesome show tomorrow morning over there. And catch me for random game streams like you saw me last night playing the DioField Chronicle or whatever you guys. I appreciate it. You always coming out, hanging out, checking out what we got going on. Appreciate you all. Pong Soul. We don't have Jasper here to do the outro for you, so you're gonna have to do it on your own this time, man.
I think I can handle it.
Chat, you were awesome, guys. Love you all again. Thank you so much. Pong, where can everybody find you, bro?
Absolutely, man. Again, great night, great chat, man. I've loved my Thursday nights coming here, man. No matter how busy we've been, man, it's just great to catch up with you and have everybody else included in our conversations. It's just freaking fantastic. I love this shit. Anyways, you guys can find me tomorrow night. I will be on Xbox Ultimate, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. As Mav said, I should be there on time. I should. So, but it's going to be a great show. Like Mav said, we got other people with a lot of opinions on what's been happening. It's going to be great to hear there. So join us. It's always just a great time. You never know how many times we're going to go left, up, down, whatever, man. We're going to go everywhere, but we will have some good conversations tomorrow night for sure, as we always do. So be there. And then Saturday morning, look, if Mav and I can do 3 hours, you know what Steel and I can do. So be there for me and my brother, Steel Rain, because living split screen, got to get Steel's opinion on this stuff. Him and I have been in the chats, and of course, we're going to do it our way that, you know, is unique as well. So be there, living split screen, mission 1K, tell a friend, bring a fan. I'll put out a video tomorrow morning. So if you can all share it out, I greatly appreciate it. If you see it on Twitter, thank you so much for doing that. Again, we're trying to grow, and we're growing the right way. We're not buying subs. We're not asking for trading for subs, nothing. We just want real people who want to join us on a weekly basis every Saturday. Living split screen, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, 3 p.m. UK time, BST time, whatever you call it over there. We will be there. It's going to be 3+ hours. Chances are it's probably going to go 4 this week with the topics we got going on. But it's going to be a fun time with me and Steel every single Saturday morning. This one will be no different. Saturday night, the Shop Podcast with PTK Blam, Fuzzy Belvedere, and myself. We will be there to end your Saturday night the right way. I don't know if PTK has announced a guest yet. Fuzzy, if you're still in there, has PTK announced a guest? Anyways, be there, because it's always the best time on a Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. And PTK gives the chat time to ask questions for the last half of the show. So if you got questions, you want a topic that you want us to talk about, bring it. We'll do it. So be there. And then obviously Tuesdays, again, I probably won't be there this week. It is what it is, but you got to join Xbox Factor Podcast, because it's Mr. Boomstick, Double Barrel Gaming, one of the best in the business. He was out there today promoting our shows. Again, he's just such a great member of this community. If you're not there on Tuesdays, hearing all the good stuff green, I don't know what you're doing, because Tuesday afternoons is where it's at. 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time. Double Barrel Gaming is the channel. Mr. Boomstick is the man. Be there. And then, of course, Thursday, be back here again for PM and the PM. God willing, life willing. I will be here with Mav, and we will probably have a brand new round of topics. Hopefully, this wrestling match between Sony and Xbox doesn't stop. Maybe we'll get some more slander.
Like, you want
'cause it'll be
Sony's
fun.
response now, and I want Nintendo to just like come randomly, like just send like something and just like, hey guys, I think like both of you suck, and we're gonna tell you what's wrong with both of you guys. And
that'd be freaking amazing. We get a video from Bowser. That would be freaking amazing. And then we get Jim Ryan's response from a hotel room somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it would be amazing. Listen, but we're gonna have a good time no matter what. But again, it's golden age of gaming, people. You can find me, of course, Pong on Xbox and Twitter. You guys know the drill there. Just follow me. I'll follow you back. But it is the golden age of gaming. That's why we're all here. That's why we're talking about this stuff.